FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, October 13th. Wisconsin denies tax credit to Foxconn for 2019 work. Says company did not create enough jobs to fulfill agreement. 3 years after legislation was passed promising Foxconn Technology Group billions in tax credits, and President Donald Trump presided over a groundbreaking ceremony in Mount Pleasant, the company will not be receiving any state tax credits for the work done in 2019. According to the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, Foxconn has hired only 281 people eligible for tax credits and has made only $300 million in capital expenditures, not fulfilling the goals set out in the contract signed by Foxconn and the state. The original plan was to create a Generation 10.5 LCD advanced manufacturing facility with the promise of creating 13,000 jobs. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
You are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, happy Tuesday. Happy 3 weeks to Election Day, my little buddy.
Oh, thank goodness. 3 weeks away. Happy Tuesday to you, Crudy. I am so looking forward to this election being over with.
You and I, the entire American public.
The world, the universe, perhaps.
Dominic, we've got a big show, but let's start topically, if we could, asking a very important question.
Okay.
It bears asking, perhaps not answering, but we're going to ask and answer. Dominic, who is the Trumpiest Trumpster of them all?
Oh, that's going to be a tough one, Crudy. There's so many kiss-ass Republicans in Congress right now. I don't know.
Well, you mentioned the topic to me, and I thought immediately of your friend and mine, Rojo. Ron Johnson. He's got to be nearing the top of that list. And then I thought, no, who's that smug little you-know-what from Florida? Oh, Matt Gaetz, that guy.
Gaetz. What about who's the House chair in the investigation from California?
Devin Nunes.
Nunes, right?
His cows have a very prolific Twitter account. Nunes. No, I thought about him. He took information from the White House, like left the back door, drove around to the front door of the White House, showed it to Trump and said, time for a press conference, right? I mean, it was really almost incestuous what Devin Nunes was trying to pull off, giving cover to Donald Trump. But
pretty kiss-ass action by Congressman Nunes.
And then I thought, well, Nunes, although he's not the brightest bulb, maybe it's a dimmer bulb on the Republican tree, some very low wattage bulbs, but perhaps the lowest wattage of them all. I thought Louis Gohmert.
Oh, another great guess, Crudy.
But that's not right. None of the above, right? It's not Rojo. It's not Matt Gaetz. It's not Louis Gohmert. Oh, one more I thought of. And he's not in Congress. He'd desperately like to be. Scotty Fitzgerald from the 5th CD of the great state of Wisconsin.
Trump. Pants.
I mean,
Trump. Pants.
Fitzy has been the conductor of the Trump train here in the state of Wisconsin for 5 years running, Dom.
I blame Fitzy.
I blame Fitzy for lots of malfeasance. And we're going to talk with a fine candidate, his opponent, Tom Palzewicz. And you also invited Fitzy on the show.
I did. I reached out via phone and email to State Senator of Wisconsin, Scott Fitzgerald, the majority leader. I reached out to invite him on for a discussion/debate with us, perhaps moderating with our pal, Tom Palzewicz. and I have not yet heard back.
I have a prediction, Dom.
Yeah.
Fitzy, far too yellow-bellied to respond.
Oh, yellow-bellied.
Yeah.
Oh, throwing it down. Don't,
Big old yellow belly.
not
That
the
guy's
yellow
got.
belly.
Yeah, if it was, well, it's either yellow or orange.
Yeah, probably more orange.
So our pal Palzewicz going to join us a little bit later in this hour, talk about the fact that Scotty Fitzgerald, so freaking yellow-bellied, he will not debate Palzewicz. I mean, come on, Fitzy, you big chicken.
Well, and in the reporting, just quickly on this, why we digress from who's the most kiss-ass Republican in Congress.
Well, Fitzy would like to be.
Fitzy would, man. If he could fit the bill, he wants to fit that bill. But he had replied that, you know what? No one's asking him besides Palzewicz to debate. So no community groups, no radio stations. So, of course, that is now no longer the case. I did invite, and hopefully, perhaps he'll step up.
This
You see the size of that chicken?
this fine radio network. We got an AM. I mean, come on, we're right in Fitzy's district.
I
1580 AM. That originates. WTTN originates from Columbus, Wisconsin. Hell, we would set aside, let's call it an hour, Dom, if they want to have a debate. And we're asking right now, Fitzy, and I take back all the yellow-bellied cracks for now. Unless
Only
you
if you say
respond.
yes. Only if you agree.
But only if you agree. Otherwise, you are yellow-bellied. But we would host a on-air debate, and we would broadcast it across much of the 5th Congressional District. That 1580 AM signal, it covers most of the 5th. So now we're asking, Fitzy, what do you say? Chicken Colonel Sanders?
No, of course, though, Fitzy not yet in Congress. And if he were, I predict he would be one of the most kiss-ass Trumpsters in Congress.
I would bring in at least a somewhat neutral moderator. I would check with Maggie Dawn. We would find someone, Milwaukee County Corporate Counsel. She's not going to blow her career just to make Fitzy look bad. You and I, we don't have careers to blow.
What are you talking about? Radio gods.
Radio gods. Is that what we are? I think of you as a mere mortal, but, maybe godlike.
Demigod?
Something like that. Palzewicz at 2:30.
When someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Yes. Thank you, Brian.
Fitzgerald probably not appearing on this big show, but given the opportunity, he'd sure like to be Miss Congeniality and the Trumpiest Trumpster of them all contest. And Trump knows a little something about pageants, Tom.
Oh, yes, he does. When they're when the contestants are in the changing room, he can go in there and inspect. I mean, he gets away with that.
Well, I bet you, Fitzy would keep on a t-shirt. Doesn't want his yellow belly showing.
Just a t-shirt? That's a hot look. Would it be Trump's t-shirt? It would be if it could be.
If it covers the belly, it pretty much covers everything, Dom. Gonna have some fun today. But, Dom!
What?
So I've gone through my list of maybes. Maybe who is the Trumpiest Trumpster of them all? And they've done some research on this. There is a quantifiable answer. And I said Rojo or Matt Gaetz or Louis Gohmert and wannabe sycophant Scotty Fitzgerald. But none of those are the correct answer. Dom, please share it with the audience.
Crudy, the reporting in Axios.com. I'll tease it here just a little more. More than 85% of elected Republicans who have been in Congress throughout President Trump's term have largely stood by him through 7 crises that would have crushed most politicians, according to a comprehensive new study by Axios on HBO.
So 85% support from all of the Republicans in the Congress. They're all ass kissers.
The data show how Trump's grip on the Republican Party has tightened, especially in the last 2 years, as his dissenters have largely piped down, been tossed out, or currently face the threat of losing re-election.
Trump will choke a bitch.
This is how it works, according to Axios. The Trump Loyalty Index, built over the past year by Juliet Bartz of Axios on HBO, shows in empirical terms the intense loyalty Trump commands. The index measures both voting loyalty based on 538 data and whether members said anything critical on the record during 7 of Trump's biggest crises. His Hollywood Access recording, the initial travel ban on Muslim majority nations, his comments on Charlottesville, his S-whole countries remark, the go back tweet, his call with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, and his Bible photo op. And
what a wonderful approaching 4 years it has been. The memories, Dom.
Making America great again. And so you go to Axios.com, you can check this out. In 2016, 42% of 178 Republicans who have been in office since Trump's candidacy criticized him for his Access Hollywood fallout. There's some more detail on this. But everyone, what do we want to know? What are we talking about? Who is the most subservient? Who is the most loyal Trumpster ass kisser in Congress, Crudy?
Well, real quick, I was going to point out Scott Fitzgerald, while the Senate Majority Leader, I did get to Fitzy at a press conference in 2016, immediately after the Access Hollywood tape dropped, and Fitzy was full supportive still. And I said, how many credible accusations of sexual assault will it take before your support for this man will drop? And Fitzy just got redder and redder. It was a direct contrast to his yellow belly.
Oh, damn, Crudy, brutal. Apparently, there is no number. There is no number for Fitzy, but since he is not in Congress, he is not in Axios's list. If we had a drum roll, redo it right now. The most kissed ass person in Congress, Republican, is Wisconsin's own Rep. Glenn Grothmann.
Hey, Ma, can we get some meatloaf?
Glenn, wow, where's the meatloaf, Grothmann?
Yes, Crudy. He has a Trump loyalty index of 93, topping the list, and a voting record of 94%. Again, the data based on 538. Go to Axios.com. Check it out. Wisconsin's own, making Wisconsin great again.
I got to think those are the best grades that Grothmann ever got.
I guess I didn't think of Grothmann, however, whatever he's going by now.
Well, Trump calls him Grothmann, so he changed his name.
That's how loyal he is to Donald Trump.
If that's what you want to call me, I'll just, that'll be the new pronunciation of my name.
Yes, honey. And in second place, David Perdue from Georgia. Matt Gaetz, Crudy, pulling in a third. Kevin Kramer pulling in fourth. And Rep. Louis Gohmert pulling in at number 5.
Oh, at least I was on the right track with a couple of them. But here is why I wouldn't ever think that Grothmann would make the number 1 on the ass-kissing Trump list. Grothmann, the very same night that Donald Trump flew into Milwaukee, you recall it was the 4th of July, the fireworks. And my daughter,
Summerfest, I remember.
Yeah, my daughter was also flying in that night. I went to pick her up, coming home for a little summer trip. And she was on the same airplane, commercial flight with Glenn Grothmann looking very crumpled.
He didn't get a ride on the Air Force One?
Oh, come on. No, he didn't even get to ride on Air Force One. But he wanted to. Awfully bad.
I thought loyalty was rewarded. Apparently not. Congratulations, ? Rep. Glenn Grothmann from Wisconsin.
Do you think he shared Ma's meatloaf recipe?
Nobody gets Ma's meatloaf recipe.
Come back, more Devil's Advocates. You're listening right now.
Just sit back, close your eyes, and...
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Homosexuality is not something that we
Thank you, sir.
supporting.
May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Now I feel bad that I have to go, but I'm supposed to be in Fond du Lac.
Hey, Ma! Can we get some meatloaf?
Hey, Solidarity Realty here. It's time for another election. Time for your voice to be heard. By now, you probably have a good idea of which presidential candidate you are voting for, or at least we hope you do. While picking a president is important, we wanted to remind you that down ballot is just as important. Research your local candidates, make sure they know who you are and what you stand for, because our community will only thrive if everyone has a seat at the table.
The Lazy Oaf Lounge is Madison's East Side place for friends and family. Whether it's for lunch or dinner, you know you're in for a tasty treat. Awesome apps, burgers, pizza, and the best fish fry in Madison. And join us to cheer on the green and gold with 50-cent wings, beer bucket specials, and free Jell-O shots with every Green Bay touchdown. Plenty of TVs inside or out on the patio. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road, and online at lazyoaflounge.com.
Dave from Community PC here. Now more than ever, we're relying on our computers to stay connected with family and friends. Looking for that perfect holiday gift for a family member who struggles with keeping everything up to date? Every day, more and more people are discovering the peace of mind that comes from a Tech Protect plan from Community PC. And it makes the perfect gift for anyone you need to stay connected with. Check out commpc.com to learn more. That's commpc.com. Community PC. We know what makes computers happy.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
You guys are getting it done.
You boys are the light of my day, and I've been listening to you for many years.
I love you guys. You're the greatest thing that has happened to Wisconsin radio.
If it wasn't for your radio program and getting out the boat, who knows?
I got to give you guys so many props.
I'm pretty sure your guys' radio station had a direct impact on that.
You're welcome, everybody, and thank you. Taking on Righty Whitey Talk Radio on both sides of the dial from McFarland to Wanakee, Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Women want them. Men want to be them. Tom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. You can join us at 844-967-2789.
You know, Donald Trump coming back to Janesville, Wisconsin this Saturday, Dominic. And I know you often get discouraged. You don't want to go back to the Trump rallies because his playlist, it's so limited. It's Tiny Dancer and Rocket Man, and you can't always get what you want, right?
Right, the same 8 songs on a loop.
That is about all you get at a Donald Trump rally. And of course, I'm not even sure he's paid the licensing on any of those songs. But Dominic, here's the good news. Trump has expanded his playlist. And last night he was playing some different tunes from the Village People. And not only that, apparently he was dancing. He did the YMCA last night. According to the Raw story, you know, one of my favorite sources.
I can do Y, I can do M, I can do C, I can do A. I'm very cognitively there.
Let me read briefly from the reporting of the dance moves of Donald Trump.
Oh, no.
President Donald Trump energetically returned to the campaign trail on Monday after having been hospitalized for coronavirus. Here is a quote, not from Trump, though. This reporting thereof. President Trump returned to the campaign trail Monday, holding his first rally since being hospitalized earlier this month as part of an intense effort to demonstrate that his bout with COVID-19 is behind him. And he is more vigorous of the 2 septuagenarian candidates vying for the presidency. Though Trump, Washington Post reporting, though Trump has declared himself now immune to the virus, which has killed more than 214,000 Americans and infiltrated the White House, he and his team have not clarified for the public the last time he tested negative for COVID-19. You know, they announced he had it on October 2nd, Dom. This has raised questions about whom Trump may have infected before isolating himself at the White House, then at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. Now, Trump supporters shunned masks at the rally, leading to fears it could be another super spreader event, Dom. Here again, a quote from the reporting thereof. Some of Trump's aides and associates initially hoped that his coronavirus diagnosis would help him focus on the pandemic, allowing him to emerge as a sympathetic figure with a newfound sense of seriousness and empathy. That so far has not happened. Now, Trump was upbeat following his hour-long campaign speech, leaving the stage to the song YMCA by the Village People. The rally also featured the song Macho Man, which stunned CNN's Anderson Cooper. Funky with this body, he's a king, the Village People sang in the song. Call him Mr. Ego, dig his chains. You can best believe that. He's a macho man, the song continues. Likes to be a leader. He never dresses grand. He's a macho man. Macho Trump. Right?
You know you got to be a macho man. Well, I've heard other variations of the YMCA song with the MAGA, right? That's the mega. They have their own version of that. So perhaps that's the motivation for the Village people. But I did unfortunately click on the link at the Raw story to see Trump shake his behind just a little bit and
shaking his groove thing down.
I do regret that clickbait, but it's there if you want to see it.
The Making America Great Again YMCA thing is the extent of their creative powers. That's literally it. That's all they have.
YMCA.
They've
expanded the playlist.
Well, I mean that's a good thing. But it's still a Trump rally. But let's hear a little bit of him before we get to our pal, Tom Palzewicz, running for the 5th Congressional District here in Wisconsin. He's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. But let's hear a little of the president, man. It was great to be back. Cut number 30, if you would, please, Brian.
It's great to be back in my home state, Florida, to make my official return to the campaign trail.
Your home state? Does he move there like 8 months ago? I mean, what? But okay. Let's continue. Cut number 31.
I am so energized by your prayers and humbled by your support. We've had such incredible support.
And the disco music. The disco music really makes me shake my ass.
Well, it brings me back to a simpler time when all I had to do was try to avoid getting STDs in the New York City dance clubs. But let's continue. The coronavirus. Cut 32.
We are going to take whatever the hell they gave me and we're going to distribute it around to hospitals and everyone's going to have the same damn thing.
What they gave you? Are you talking about the syphilis you caught earlier in life or, the chlamydia you got from raw dogging a porn star?
The cocktail of drugs, whatever the hell they gave me. I don't even know what it was, but I want you to get it because it was so, so good. Just look at me.
Hey, Donald, just open your mouth. Just try this.
Yeah. It'll make you great again. We have to win. Let's skip up to cut number 34.
This is the most important election in the history of our country. And I used to say it in 2016. I'm sorry, at the time I thought it was. These people are crazy. We have to win.
These people are crazy. A little projection by this man. Trolling the libs. That's really what it's all about. The SCOTUS pick. Well, he loves it. Driving him crazy. Cut 35, please, Brian.
But who would have thought we're on number 3? Other presidents have never had any. They've never had any. We're at 3 already. 3.5 years.
What?
And I will say this.
3
it's
what?
driving them crazy.
Supreme Court candidates. And Crudy, he was so fired up, he wanted to kiss everybody. Well, not everybody. Cut 39.
It does give you a good feeling when you can beat something, and now they say you're immune. I don't know for how long. Some people say for life. Some people say for 4 months.
I don't know. Let's do cut 39.
One thing with me, the nice part, I went through it. Now they say I'm immune. I feel so powerful. I'll walk into that audience. I'll walk in there. I'll kiss everyone in that audience.
Well, specifically, he said he'd kiss the men and the good-looking women.
What about the not good-looking women?
Well, he's a macho man. Never kiss an ugly chick.
You'd rather kiss an ugly man than an ugly woman.
Bros before ugly women? I'm sorry. I'm just trying to understand the president's point of view. Come back, Tom Palzewicz, candidate for the 5th CD.
So what? So let's dance.
I find it sexy.
From Wanakee to McFarland, 92.7 FM is essential radio to get you through the pandemic.
Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
I'm Rocker, and this is my vodka, distilled right here in Madison, made from corn and gluten-free. Try Rocker Vodka at Sal's Dark Horse on Livingston or Sugar River Pizza in Verona. Find Rocker Vodka at Star Liquor, Woodman's, Willie Street Co-op, Vic Pierce, Steve's Liquor, Total Wine, Miller & Sons, and more at rockervodka.com.
Whiz Cannabis Radio is brought to you by Herbal Aspect, Madison's #1 CBD brand. You can catch the show live on our social channels. Just search for Whiz Cannabis Radio. Herbal Aspect is a local, black-owned small business. For more information, go to herbalaspect.com.
You with an AP News Minute. Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett at her Senate confirmation hearing is batting back Democrats' questions on abortion, gun rights, and other hot-button issues. She would not recuse herself from any post-election disputes that might arise.
I haven't even written anything that I would think anybody could reasonably say, oh, this is how she might resolve an election dispute. And I would consider it, I certainly hope that all members of the committee have more confidence in my integrity than to think that I would allow myself to be used as a pawn to decide this election for the American people.
Delaware Democrat Chris Coons says the Republican timing of this hearing is wrong.
An election, an ACA case, and a rush timing in the middle of a pandemic. And I would just urge them one more time to think seriously about stepping back from this timing of this confirmation. That's not meant to impugn you or suggest that in some way you've engaged in some inappropriate conversation.
This is day 2 of the hearing. I'm Ed Donahue.
T-Mobile for Business knows saving time and money is important for your business. That's why we're introducing Microsoft 365 on us, now included in our best business plans. With Office apps, Microsoft Teams, cloud storage, and more, Microsoft 365 on us gives you the tools you need to run your business. Stop by a T-Mobile store today. Qualifying plan required. Contactless to activate. 1 license per line, max 2 per account. Third-party terms apply. See T-Mobile.com for plan details.
When it comes to the radio, we all have our reason to fight over the dial.
Sports talk, entertainment news. Sports talk, entertainment news.
But with some things in life, we can all win. Like at TD Ameritrade, where we offer 2 different mobile apps. TD Ameritrade Mobile is great for the investor who wants a simple way to track the market, while Thinkorswim Mobile offers a more in-depth trading experience. Visit tdameritrade.com/apps to find the one that's right for you. TD Ameritrade, where smart investors get smarter. Member SIPC.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, October 13th. Wisconsin and Dane County set COVID-19 hospitalization records again. The state reported 1,956 new cases of COVID-19 Monday, a drop from the record current daily average of 2,547 cases. But Mondays typically have the lowest new case counts throughout the pandemic, and the 1,956 figure is the highest for any Monday. Wisconsin reports 950 people are hospitalized with the coronavirus as the state's crisis continues. Wisconsin's COVID-19 crisis reached new heights Monday as the state reported a record 950 people were hospitalized with the virus, nearly 3 times more than a month ago. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Just 3 weeks from today is Election Day. And you know, the debates, you think they'd be getting in full cycle, but not the 5th CD. Because as far as I can tell, Scotty Fitzgerald is yellow-bellied. And we got a fine guest and a fine candidate joining us right now live via phone. He's our pal, Tom Palzewicz. He is the Democratic candidate for the 5th CD. Tom, welcome back to the show.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tom.
So I see it as Fitzy's yellow-bellied. Why won't he debate you, Tom? Is he chicken? Why do you think, sir?
I literally have no idea because he has not responded to anything our campaign has done to reach out to him to ask him about a debate. And I think you read the article in the Journal-Sentinel today where he's either blaming COVID or talking about how we haven't had the right group to reach out to him. So hopefully you reached out to him today and asked him to be on the radio show, because I thought that would be a good idea, because he said he's just waiting for an invitation. So I think that's the next step. But the bigger picture is I personally don't think he wants to answer for what's happened in Wisconsin, especially in the last 7 months. It's just been tragic. And you guys saw the numbers today, the number of people testing positive, but in particular, the number of people who died just in the last 24 hours. We have 34 people in Wisconsin succumbing to this terrible, terrible tragedy that at least in my mind, we could be doing something about. And it's unconscionable to me that there are people in our government who are refusing to play any active role in helping to protect the people of this state.
Well, Tom, we did, and I mean Dominic invited Scott Fitzgerald on the show.
The royal we.
The royal we. And I would point out,
Nice.
Tom, we do have an AM broadcast signal originating in Columbia County. That's the heart of the 5th District and Fitzy's Senate District. And if he's worried about the moderator calling him yellow-bellied, I'll get a fine replacement moderator, someone like Maggie Dawn. But we will absolutely make a formal offer to the Fitzgerald campaign. And Tom will put your calendars together, and he better accept the invitation. And we'll make you guys debate on the radio, sir. And if we can make it happen, Tom, it will not be for lack of a radio endeavor asking. That won't be his excuse going forwards, Tom.
Perfect. Yep. And I really appreciate the offer, and I'm ready. So I'll clear my calendar. I'll just tell you right now, any day and time you want, I'll make it happen, because I think there's a lot for him to answer to. And I think that's part of the challenge of him knowing that him standing up and having to explain himself to the people of not only the 5th Congressional, but the state of Wisconsin.
Now, Tom, he's effectively buried himself to Donald Trump. He is the conductor of the Trump train. Fitzy is. And I mean, he has been as such for 5 years. And this seems like a very dangerous marriage this late in the electoral cycle. We see that there is not the support for Donald Trump that there once was. Tom, are you running against Fitzy, or running against Trump, or running against both?
At this point, we're running against the entire ideology that says that government cannot solve big problems. And to me, that is what we're running against right now. And I think the people of Wisconsin realize that we need government to be efficient and effective, especially times like these. If we can't rely on the government to keep us safe during a pandemic, what is the point of even having a government? And I think that's where, and I heard Mason Becker say this the other day. He was running down in the 33rd in Fort Atkinson. He said their ideology does not allow them to have an answer. All they can do is fight against any answers. And I think it's up to the people of Wisconsin to take a step back and realize, like, do you want people who want to reach across the aisle, take progress over partisanship, and really push to create solutions? Do you want people that run away from challenges?
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. That is Tom Palzewicz. He's a candidate for Wisconsin's 5th Congressional District here in Wisconsin, joining us on the phone. Thank you for doing so, Tom. The reaction from the Republicans here in the state legislature has been terrible, in my opinion. And I often wonder out loud on the station, why are they so desperate to run and get this job? Why would they go through the effort to gerrymander to the degree that they have in the state of Wisconsin to get this job and not do anything? They have the option right now, if there's a concern about a mask order from the governor, to go into session and have a joint resolution and do something about it. Yet they advocate their duties, and they allow for their attack dogs at Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty to file lawsuits on their behalf when they could actually do the work themselves. And here we go. Now we have Fitzgerald wanting to run for Congress. And why would he want that job? He doesn't represent the people of Wisconsin right now as it is. And the lack of leadership from the Republicans, starting with President Trump. Tom, we have a pandemic going on in this country. We have an economic crisis happening in this country. The Fed chair has said, if we don't do some more stimulus to help the American workers, we're going to have big problems. And if you are elected to Congress, Tom, what would you suggest?
Oh, I suggest that passing the CARES Act. I mean, it's right on the table. The Democrats have already put forward what needs to get done. We need more money for states and municipalities to be able to cover their extra costs and fill the gap from a lack of revenue standpoint, because the economy is so far down. I mean, there's a ton of things that need to be done, and we know what to do. But right now, at least at the national level, the most important thing is to fill another Supreme Court seat when people are suffering. But here's the other thing that's happening in our state is Wisconsin's going to stick out like a sore thumb on November 3rd, because we're not going to have all of our ballots counted by the end of the evening. And there's a simple change that the actual legislation can, if they just met, there's a very simple change. There's already a bill on the table. Chris Larson already talked about this today a number of times. If they just pass this, municipal clerks can start counting the ballots, and we'll know who won on November 3rd, but they don't even want to meet to do that because that helps democracy. And when you're losing and when you're behind when it comes to what people really want, you have to figure out a way to fight in an unfair way. And we're seeing that right now with the Supreme Court nominee jamming it through, 21 days before the election. But there's a whole bunch of things we're going to do. Joe Biden's going to be our president. We're going to take over the Senate. I'm going to be in the House, because Fitzgerald, even if he would get elected, would be in the minority. I'll be in the majority. I'll be able to get some things done. We're going to pass that CARES Act. We're going to start working on climate crisis. We're going to start working on universal health care. We're going to start doing the things that help the everyday person. And the way I describe it is you got to give people bootstraps if you want them to pull themselves up by them. And that constitutes health care, constitutes a living wage, it constitutes education. And it really is about giving people the opportunity to grow into their lives. And Republicans just aren't interested in that.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Got a fine guest. He is candidate Tom Palzewicz. He's running for Wisconsin's 5th Congressional District as a Democrat. And Tom, you got a very big endorsement. Who got behind your campaign?
Our Vice President, Joe Biden. So he actually reached out to our campaign and said, yep. So it's, I think we've been endorsed by pretty much every Democrat you can think of, with maybe the exception of President Obama. But we'll get his next time when we're an incumbent. But the bottom line is that people can see that it's time for a change in the 5th. And after 42 years of Jen Sensenbrenner, I think you guys have heard me say this, right? When I turned 18, he was my congressman, and I'm now 58, and he's still my congressman. And I'm just looking forward to having a congressman that will listen to my point of view. So I'm very excited by that. But that's where we are. And this is why things need to change, because it's about representing every constituent of the 5th Congressional District, not just one political party.
Well, and Tom, I mean, in Sensenbrenner, in his defense, the Republican has been there forever. At least he would go out into the community. He'd have town halls. He would engage in debates. Your opponent right now, Scott Fitzgerald, has been ducking every opportunity seemingly to do so.
Yeah, but he did find time to be at the Village Bowl in Menominee Falls yesterday to introduce Eric Trump in a packed room with nobody wearing masks.
In the basement of a bowling alley.
Right, because everybody knows there's great ventilation in a bowling alley if you've ever been in there, right? So, but, the thing that I don't understand is, how can you run an election the opposite of what you're asking people to do in order to run their businesses, be in schools, just basically live their lives? And it is absolutely, to me, unconscionable that you have people at the highest levels of government who are openly mocking our ability to actually manage this, and people are getting sick and people are dying because of it.
Tom, the judge in the mask mandate, Republicans through the Wisconsin Institute of Law and Liberty, with the support of legislative leaders like Scott Fitzgerald, sued to overturn and sought an injunction against the mask mandate. And I thought it very telling that the judge came out and effectively said, you have the power to do this. Get off your arses and go do your job if this is what you want. Tom, what'd you think of the ruling and the fact that the Republicans are surely going to appeal?
I think they'll appeal because they passed a law that says they have an open checkbook when it comes to using our money for attorney's fees. So I think last count we had is Fitzgerald has racked up, millions of dollars in our taxpayer dollars in attorney fees versus just doing his job that we're already paying him to do. But here's the thing that one of the Republicans had said the other day is they're going to meet after the election to overturn the mask mandate, because they know if they go on record in the middle of an election, people will penalize them for it. And this is what you do, right? When you want to pass something that's controversial, you do it in the middle of the night, or you do it when no one's watching. And they did it with MAPS. They did it with Act 10. These are all this is the toolbox that they have, knowing that most people don't want what they're selling. And, I'm hoping that the people of the 5th, when it comes time to it, because we're relying on President Trump to help us win our campaign. Because Scott Fitzgerald's website only includes him in President Trump. He doesn't have anything about what he would do when he's elected. And you go to our website and it's chock full of here are all the things that we're actually going to be working on. So we're relying on President Trump to just keep being who he is, because I think people are rejecting it more and more, and I think it's going to be a landslide.
Tom, I hope you're absolutely right. Do you see any parallels with the April election that happened here in the state of Wisconsin? And obviously, the Republicans were trying to put Dan Kelly in the best possible circumstance. It was not a competitive presidential primary, but there were all sorts of court battles over what was the election day and what was going to be the acceptable process. And the people of Wisconsin came out, and I think more so than just voting for Jill Karofsky, I think lots and lots of people came out and rejected this sort of anti-public health, anti-common sense sort of governance from these Republicans. Tom, do you see a similar outcome brewing? Do you think people are just so pissed off that they're going to punish these Republicans because they deserve to be punished?
I think the newspapers have not made that case as dramatically as they're starting to make right now, and we're relying on that because I don't think people know enough about how much the Republicans are trying to stop just democracy, not only here in Wisconsin, but around the country. We've seen the long lines in Georgia. We've seen that they're only going to have one ballot collection box in each county in Texas. I mean, these are the things that Republicans are doing that until we get back to the Voting Rights Act, that was meant to protect people's right to vote, the Republicans are going to use. And why it doesn't bother people more that there's one party that's trying to keep them from voting versus one party trying to make it safer and more secure. And I do think the people of Wisconsin are going to punish them because at the end of the day, nobody likes to have their democracy messed with. And that is what the Republicans continue to do.
Tom, do you think anyone's going to swing from Trump to Biden or from Sensenbrenner to Palzewicz? Or do you think it's more important to inspire voters that sat out the last time?
In our district, there's absolutely going to people swinging. I was in, I did an actual outdoor speech in Fort Atkinson a couple weekends ago. Everybody was social distance. Everybody wore a mask. But the bottom line is after the speech, this little old woman came up to me afterwards. She actually had tears in her eyes. And she said, Tom, I just need you to know that I voted Republican, straight Republican my entire life. And this is the first election that I'll vote for a Democrat. And I'm voting straight Democrat because I cannot believe what these people are doing to our country. And that's not just one story. I'm hearing that story from a whole bunch of other candidates in our area. And I truly believe that we're going to flip a tremendous number of votes. We flipped over.
Tom, quickly.
Votes.
Sorry, buddy. Out of time. Give me your website. We're out of time.
www.tomforwi.com. So go. We still need volunteers. We need donations, obviously, to help us get through the last round. And we need your help. So let's flip this district.
Tom Palzewicz, a fine candidate, Wisconsin's 5th Congressional District. He's the Dem. The other guy, he's yellow-bellied. Come back with us.
Thanks,
more
Tom.
Devil's Advocates.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Good luck. We're all counting on you.
Look, I'm voting for Joe Biden for a really simple reason. He actually has a plan to stop all the pain and suffering. I'm just tired of seeing so many lives cut way too short. Worst of all, everyone knows it wouldn't be this bad if we only had a real leader in charge. I mean, seriously, ask yourself, where is Trump's plan? Where is his plan to save American lives? Where is his plan to get our economy back on track? After so many months of suffering, how does he still not have a plan? And it could take a generation for us to recover. Hundreds of thousands of jobs have been lost in Wisconsin alone. Thankfully, Joe's plan is based on science. It'll tackle the pandemic, get our economy started again, and help working families. We just can't wait 4 years for a president to take charge. We need to take action today. Go to iwillvote.com to register to vote and request an absentee ballot. Remember, iwillvote.com. That's all it takes to vote from home safely and securely. It's quick, it's easy. You can do it right now.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
For voters with a disability, exercising the right to vote can be a difficult task, but during a pandemic, it can be nearly impossible. The Wisconsin Disability Vote Coalition encourages you to check your voter registration online and request an absentee ballot for the November general election at myvote.wi.gov. Questions about your registration or requesting an absentee ballot? Call 1-800-DIS-VOTE. That's 1-800-DIS-VOTE or go to disabilityvote.org.
Make your plan to vote today.
This message brought to you in part by the Wisconsin Disability Vote Coalition.
Do you know the Devil's Advocate started as a podcast, just two buddies talking into an iPad because we thought we had something to say? Do you have something to say? Let Devil Radio guide you. Launch your own broadcast quality podcast. Utilize our studios and staff, our hosting platform, and we will even promote your podcast on Devil Radio. Monthly packages start at just $295. Devil Radio's podcast platform to launch immediately after the election. Call today to learn more. 608-819-TALK.
You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM. And that's pretty cool.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. 844-967-2789.
Dominic, want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, certainly more courageous than his opponent, Tom Palzewicz, candidate, Wisconsin's 5th Congressional District. He's the Democrat. He's running against Scott Fitzgerald. And you can tell Scott Fitzgerald in his natural habitat because the bright yellow belly will shine brightly. You'll spot him.
You know, the Scott Fitzgerald in his position, according to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, that nobody's reached out. Well, we've officially done that now, so that's no longer an excuse. And Tom, brought this up in the Journal article. It seems like he's talking about Fitzgerald here, bouncing from one excuse to the other. Oh, well, no one's asked. Tom's just doing this. It's only Tom. And then he goes on further in the article, says, well, it's not like, because of COVID, no one's getting together and, these civic organizations aren't doing anything. But as Tom Palzewicz mentioned, well, Fitzy had time to go to a basement of a bowling alley yesterday to introduce Eric Trump. Obviously, some people are getting together.
Eric Trump, that's the toothy, sort of stupid Trump son. I mean, it's all on a sliding scale, you realize.
Well, right. The Beavis, the Butthead, I forget which one he is. But again, the point being, yes, this is absolutely an issue, and Scott Fitzgerald should absolutely debate his congressional opponent. What are you're just going to sit there and hide and duck every single time? You've been asked. How about an answer, sir?
Well, Dominic, more political royalty of the Republican sort in the state of Wisconsin today. We've got both Princess Ivanka and also the Queen, Mike Pence. I mean, if Trump's the king, then Pence is the queen, right? Is that how it works?
It seems logical.
Real quick, Vice President Mike Pence, Dateline Waukesha, Vice President Mike Pence resumed his Wisconsin road show. Call it a road show. That's printable.
Show.
Yeah, Tuesday with some tough words on law and order and a jab at Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett during a campaign rally at Wadall Manufacturing. Wadall, speaking to hundreds of people gathered outside the Waukesha facility. That could be his biggest crowd ever. Pence declared, "We saw cities in Wisconsin, Kenosha, Milwaukee, beset by violence and destruction. The truth of the matter is, though, Joe Biden would double down on the policies that have led to violence in America's cities." You mean the violence under the Trump-Pence administration, violence?
Yeah. The reaction to, systemic racism and police officers continually killing unarmed black men. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Well, Pence would respond to you as thus, Tom. Pence said, when you withdraw support from those who protect and serve, you only embolden those who do harm to our families and communities. Well, I think the Trump-Pence team, they've been emboldened. I read on. I mean, it's no surprise Milwaukee has literally seen a 110% increase in homicides. All the while, Milwaukee's Democratic mayor has called for cutting 120 police officers.
100% increase in homicides in Milwaukee under the Trump-Pence administration?
Very same one, Don.
Yeah,
because Barrett's been the mayor for a while in Milwaukee, and if it's up 110%, it's up 110% from when Mayor Barrett prior was also the mayor of Milwaukee. So what has changed? It's not the mayor, it's the president. Reading on a little farther, Pence did not mention Barrett by name. The mayor announced the police cuts as part of what he called a sobering 2021 budget proposal. By turns optimistic and slashing, Pence was seeking to rally support where Republicans need it most in deep red, although turning bluer all the time, Waukesha County. It is great to be back in the Badger State. And I know this is Packers country with that 4-0 record. And judging by the flags and signs I saw on the way here, this is Trump country, Pence said. It's on everybody 3 weeks from today, and the road goes right through Wisconsin, Pence said. Some in the crowd wore masks, but there was no social distancing.
Of course not.
Over the last 2 years, Pence has made frequent appearances across the state, from Marinette to La Crosse, and introducing the vice president. U.S. Rep. Brian Style quipped Pence should be named an honorary Badger. No thanks, hard no. He even spoke at a school choice event at the state capitol in Madison, where he was not welcomed. And back in 2017, Pence toured Weldall, a large fabrication manufacturer. But in the closing weeks of the 2020 race, the VP is playing an especially important role for President Donald Trump's campaign. While the president was recovering from the COVID-19, now he's got immunity, damn. Pence took on high-profile events, including the vice presidential debate with Democrat Kamala Harris. He's also taken the fight to Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden. Also, Dom, perhaps more importantly, Ivanka dined in Appleton last night.
Ooh.
Maskless, of course. Everyone at the table appeared to be maskless. I didn't even see masks laying on the table. Like, they didn't even show up with masks. Appleton, that was your old party grounds, wasn't it?
You know it.
Now, you'd been to that restaurant, apparently, where
Ivanka
dined.
To the Copperleaf Hotel on College Avenue. Yeah, for sure.
Now, I'd have gone to the little Italian joint, or perhaps Vince Lombardi Steakhouse.
Across the street.
Victoria's, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the best run Italian joint I've ever eaten at. That's a very cool place. I have never dined where Ivanka dined. Apparently, I'm not sufficiently highbrow, Dom.
Well,
but I bet you ate there.
I think we need to mention on this during his speech, apparently the vice president gave some props to former governor of Wisconsin, Scott Walker, for helping him in his debate prep.
The Wankinator.
Now, judging how that debate went, I'm not clear that Scotty did a very good job, but you got to work with the cards you're dealt.
Now, a little bit more about Princess Ivanka. Ivanka Trump spent her Tuesday morning in the Fox Cities touring Team Industries in Kaukauna before addressing a group of supporters at Brindlewood Barn in Hilbert. President Donald Trump's daughter arrived in Wisconsin Monday and ate at the Rye restaurant in downtown Appleton Monday night, according to a photo she posted on Twitter, which shows Ivanka Trump sitting with the group at a table. The restaurant is attached to the Copperleaf Boutique Hotel. Trump stopped at a pipe manufacturing facility for a tour Tuesday morning, speaking with employees about the work at the company. Then around 10 a.m., she arrived at the barn, apparently, a rustic wedding and event venue in rural Calumet County, where she spoke to a group of less than 100, most of them wearing face masks. The president and his children, along with the VP Mike Pence, have been storming the state leading up to Election Day, making multiple stops in the last several months, holding in-person rallies and events, despite coronavirus pandemic restrictions. And in case you're wondering, Donald Trump, he's coming to Janesville on Saturday.
What's up with all the kids, though? I mean, he's got his kids out there campaigning for him. I mean, where's Ron Johnson? Where's Scott Walker? Why aren't they out there?
Campaigning on behalf of Trump?
Yeah.
Would you want Scott Walker out there campaigning on your behalf? Didn't he end the last campaign with 0.0? And he lost to Tony Evers. How could he be? Come back with us, hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates. I promise it will be excellent.
The United States on America.
To me, they're not even people.
I don't profess to be a political savant.
Wisconsin has more new cases of coronavirus than Illinois. We have twice as many new cases as Michigan, Iowa, and Minnesota combined. Yet Scott Fitzgerald refuses to help keep you and your family safe. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660 and tell him this pandemic is real and we need help. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him to do his job and work with the governor. Paid for by Blue Sky Waukesha. Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, Madison. This is Santita Jackson of the Santita Jackson Show. Every Tuesday morning at 7:30, please join Madison's own John Nichols of The Nation magazine as he unpacks the politics of the day right here on the Santita Jackson Show.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus and W224 EG 92.7 FM Madison. Always streaming at Talk 92.7 FM.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. Democrats in the Senate are questioning President Trump's nominee to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett. This is Minnesota's Amy Klobuchar.
The American people have to understand that you would be the polar opposite of Justice Ginsburg.
Barrett has answered questions on abortion, gun rights, and other hot-button issues. She declined to say whether or not she would recuse herself from any post-election disputes that might arise.
I haven't even written anything that I would think anybody could reasonably say, oh, this is how she might resolve an election dispute. And I would consider it, I certainly hope that all members of the committee have more confidence in my integrity than to think that I would allow myself to be used as a pawn to decide this election for the American people.
Barrett told the committee she admires the conservative late Justice Antonin Scalia, but you would be getting Justice Barrett. Campaigning in Florida, Joe Biden says President Trump's words are important during the pandemic.
Who was he talking about when he said it affects virtually nobody? He was talking about America's seniors. He was talking about you. He was talking about my family.
Biden says the only senior citizen the president cares about is himself. Johnson & Johnson executives say it will be a few days before they know more about an unexplained illness in one participant that caused a temporary pause in its late-stage coronavirus vaccine study. Dr. William Schaffner is an infectious disease expert at Vanderbilt University.
This is standard operating procedure. It shows that the system is working. It shows that people are being very careful.
Wisconsin recorded record highs for positive coronavirus cases and deaths today on the eve of an overflow field hospital opening near Milwaukee. Cristiano Ronaldo has become the latest international soccer star to test positive for the coronavirus. This is AP News.
T-Mobile for Business knows saving time and money is important for your business. That's why we're introducing Microsoft 365 on us, now included in our best business plans. With Office apps, Microsoft Teams, cloud storage, and more, Microsoft 365 on us gives you the tools you need to run your business. Stop by a T-Mobile store today. Qualifying plan required. Contact us to activate. 1 license per line, max 2 per account. Third-party terms apply. See T-Mobile.com for plan details.
When it comes to the radio, we all have our reason to fight over the dial.
Sports talk, entertainment news. Sports talk, entertainment news.
But with some things in life, we can all win. Like at TD Ameritrade, where we offer 2 different mobile apps. TD Ameritrade Mobile is great for the investor who wants a simple way to track the market, while Thinkorswim Mobile offers a more in-depth trading experience. Visit tdameritrade.com/apps to find the one that's right for you. TD Ameritrade, where smart investors get smarter. Member SIPC.
Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
This is Tony with Quality CBD. We are located on Willie Street across from the co-op. At Quality CBD, we are vertically integrated. From soil to oil and seed to sale, we grow, extract, manufacture, and distribute quality CBD oil. We also have contact-free delivery options at qualitycbd.org. Quality CBD. Legal, local, legit.
Hey, Solidarity Realty here. It's time for another election. Time for your voice to be heard. By now, you probably have a good idea of which presidential candidate you are voting for, or at least we hope you do. While picking a president is important, we wanted to remind you that down ballot is just as important. Research your local candidates, make sure they know who you are and what you stand for, because our community will only thrive if everyone has a seat at the table.
When it comes to computers, Madison Computer Works has been the leader in computer help, service, and support for more than 35 years. Our friendly techs have the expertise to help you choose the right computer for your needs. We make it easy to get a new computer by moving your data, reinstalling programs, and setting up your printers and email for you. Our competitive pricing and awesome tech support make moving to a new computer painless and affordable. Whether servicing your old computer or buying a new one, we'll help you do it right. Madison Computer Works, computers that work for you.
Stream the Devils in progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, October 13th. State GOP lawmakers get involved in dispute over public health restrictions on gatherings. GOP lawmakers say the restrictions need the legislators' okay. Governor Tony Evers' administration issued the new restrictions last week, citing a surge in COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations that had turned Wisconsin into one of the nation's coronavirus hotspots. The restrictions, which went into effect Thursday, are scheduled to last until November 6th. The legislature's Joint Committee for Administrative Rules voted 6-4 along party lines Monday to direct Evers' State Department of Health Services to repackage the order as what's known as an emergency rule. That would be an end around to give Republicans who control the legislature veto power over the order. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, 3 weeks from Election Day. In both campaigns, they're on the stump. Now, Joe Biden stumped in Cincinnati today, and we've got some sound from that. Joe Biden also going down to challenge Trump in his new adopted home state of Florida. Yeah. Now, Trump had his little COVID rally in Florida today as well. And one of the attendees, Ron DeSantis, maskless, the governor of Florida, went to Trump's rally, sans mask. Why would you wear one?
Why bother? I mean, it's all a hoax.
Now, Fancy Brian, I was going to play some Biden sound. Were you telling me to bunt?
No, I was telling you it was last night.
Oh, my bad.
I just didn't want people to think that they could run out to see and get COVID from Trump right now. If all of our Florida listeners, I just want them to think that, it was last night.
Trump in Florida last night, Biden in Cincinnati.
Last night as well.
Oh, and then Biden going to Florida today.
They didn't tell me his itinerary then. I just know when the sound came.
We're going to have to keep.
I just want to be accurate. That's all.
That's right.
I can't even keep my calendar, man.
We have some sound from the candidates. How about that? Recent sound.
Let's play the Biden sound. I'd rather hear Biden. Biden in Cincinnati last night, apparently, or so I've heard on the street. If you would please, Fancy Brian. It's go time. Play it.
As my football coach says, go time, Joe. It's go time. This is the most important election of our lifetimes. Not because I'm running, because what's at stake.
Yeah, that's it. It's go time. Let's see you live that.
I wish Biden had...
Was that Seinfeld? I think it was. Yeah.
I wish Joe had a little more enthusiasm. Maybe they could get him on some of those Trump steroids.
Well, I mean, listen, he's addressing a socially distanced crowd, to my understanding, right? I believe he was getting ripped on by the president for doing so. I mean, hell, pipe in some NBA sound or some NFL sound. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for Joe to say it like his coach said it. I can't imagine at the halftime at the Vince Lombardi to send him out there, smack him on the ass and say, "You go, boys. It's go time." Right? He'd say it with some enthusiasm. I just wanted to see some of that translate through the words of the former vice president, hopefully next president, Joe Biden. Just one man's opinion.
Well, let's hear some more. Maybe
style points. It's only about style.
He's just getting warmed up. Let's hear some more. Biden, cut number 11.
Experts are telling us we may lose up to another 200,000 lives by the end of January. All because the president is only worried about one thing, the stock market.
But that Regeneron stock, it's way up.
And again, a solemn occasion, those kind of statistics, not something perhaps you can get up about. But let's hear some more from Joe Biden, cut number 12.
He told Bob Woodward they didn't want to panic the American public. Americans don't panic. Trump panicked.
Pretty forceful there, and I would concur with the former vice president in that assessment. And Dominic panicked not because he was worried about his own health, not because he was worried about the American people's health. Trump panicked because he realized this was happening under his watch, and he had to downplay it for political purposes, at least in his mind.
Well, Dominic, Americans don't panic, but Americans do.
Right.
They get awful snowflakey, has been my noting.
Well, I mean, go take a run on the toilet paper, for example.
Come on, Democrats use toilet paper too, Dom.
Did they go make a run on it? I'm just saying.
I'm not clear.
Did you?
Did I?
Yeah, did you go take a run on? I mean,
I don't even know where you buy toilet paper.
Come on. What, it just appears?
I guess, I bought some for the office in Milwaukee once upon a time. I walked up to the CVS on the corner of Brady Street, but I don't think I bought toilet paper in the 20 years prior. I am quite spoiled. The Charmin roll, the double pack, it's always there when I need it.
Yeah, because it sticks to you every time. Go with the other stuff.
844-967-2789. Let's keep on
what
topic,
do you use,
fellas.
the single-ply sandpaper?
The Scott's 1000. I have a family full of people my size. We found our brand, and it works very darn well. And it doesn't stay with us the rest of the day, unlike that stupid Bear brand.
Do you think Fitzy would debate this topic?
Isn't that stuff made here anyway?
More from the former vice president.
Industries.
Very fired up in Cincinnati last night. Trump being reckless. Let's move along, fellas. Cut number 13.
Trump is the one who panicked. His reckless personal conduct since his diagnosis as well has been unconscionable. And the longer Donald Trump is president, the more reckless he gets.
And there's no doubt about that. And I think that this president is showing that. This manic attitude that he's had, and he's running a full schedule, running around without a mask, and dancing on stage. It's telling to me. Let's hear some more from Biden yesterday. Cut number 14.
We've never met. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men. We've never met that standard. But every generation has moved closer and closer and closer to inclusion. This is the first one. Elected president to deliberately try to turn it back in a big way.
And the Fauci ad, Biden had some comments on that as well. If you've not heard this, apparently Fauci upset that the president's campaign used a quote from Fauci, as Dr. Fauci put it, out of context. Well, the Trump administration, they don't care. They're fine with it. Let's hear what Biden had to say. Cut 15, please, Brian.
Trump and his campaign were very much used to deception and not telling the truth, deliberately lied by putting Fauci in his ad, implying that Fauci was talking about Trump.
And he wasn't. Fauci was talking about the other members of the coronavirus task force. Let's play cut number 16.
Fauci, after he saw the ad, he went public. You've probably seen it on the nightly news. He came after that and he said, I did not give permission for that quote to be used, and it wasn't about the president.
Vice President Joe Biden on the campaign trail, the Proud Boys dog whistle. Again, this president, man, wow, cut 17.
Well, what about those guys that you, in fact, talk about all the time? Those boys talks about. He said, well, I would just tell them to stand back and stand by. Neighborhoods I worked in the black community in Delaware, that's called a dog whistle.
No, come on, Joe. What are you so upset about? The president has come out since and said, stand down, Proud Boys. Biden, a few more cuts. Cut number 18, please.
There will be no blue states and red states with me. It's one America. I'll work with Democrats and Republicans. I'll work as hard for those who vote against me as those who voted for me.
Slow down.
A nice thought. Here's two more from Biden, cut 19.
He knew how dangerous this disease was, but he did and said nothing.
And finally, if we wore the masks, Vice President Joe Biden.
It's estimated that if we just wore masks, the mask I just took off to speak, experts tell us we could save between now and the end of the year 100,000 lives.
100,000 lives could be saved. And what estimates now? I'm hearing 200,000 more dead by the end of the year. Is that possible? I mean, this is just unbelievable. Joe Biden yesterday.
Apparently in Cincinnati. I think he's in Florida today. And Trump apparently in Florida last night, kissing men and good-looking women. But not the ugly ones.
844-967-2789. We've got some callers waiting. Let's get to them. Betsy, you will be first today. Thank you for calling. Betsy, what do you got for us?
Oh, hey, you guys.
Hey, Betsy, how you doing? Yeah, thank you.
Well, I turn you guys on, and you just make me laugh, and everything, all of you, each and every one. I want to just come over and give you a big hug and kiss, just like Trump does. But
I'd take it from you, Betsy, not from Trump.
Okay. Well, I'm just joking, because I'm taking this virus seriously. And I just don't understand how the Republicans have politicized this and weaponized this. And, I listen to Dr. Fauci, and I listen to you guys. So about the panicking, I was one of those that, planned ahead, when I knew, that this was coming. And, it was crazy.
Are we talking about stocking up on toilet paper?
Yeah.
And did you go for the Sherman or the Scott's brand?
Well, I go big. Charmin, I guess that would be the one. But no, but still, about the panicking and Joe from Stevens Point wants to know if my sister recovered from the COVID. Well, the thing is, my sister did not have the COVID, thank God, but she panicked me so that I thought she did. And, I have to be certain about things, and it's just something about me. And I'll have to tell you that Trump has made a lot of people mentally ill. I mean, he is he's absolutely horrible for this country, and I just hope people wake up. We can't sustain this. I mean, the whole country is getting sick, and they're being evicted, and it's just this divide and conquer. And I just pray God that this goes smoothly, but I don't expect it will. And so I just want to thank you guys again. And I've learned a lot not to be an alarmist.
Betsy, appreciate your call. Short on time. Go home. Do what Mr. Whipple told you to do. Just squeeze the Charmin. More devils.
How does he explain it to his colleagues and family? They'll think he doesn't know how to wipe his ass properly.
Yeah, that's it. It's go time. Let's see you lift that.
Are you a small business owner or professional that would like to be featured in your own weekly Ask the Expert radio segment or show on Devil Radio? Let us help you in your business, team with our broadcast professionals to create the right show or segment, setting you apart as the go-to professional and as an expert in your field. All shows and sponsored segments are podcasted. It will be professional broadcast quality. Packages from $395. Call Devil Radio today at 608-819-TALK.
The Lazy Oaf Lounge is Madison's East Side place for friends and family. Whether it's for lunch or dinner, you know you're in for a tasty treat. Awesome apps, burgers, pizza, and the best fish fry in Madison. And join us to cheer on the green and gold with 50-cent wings, beer bucket specials, and free Jell-O shots with every Green Bay touchdown. Plenty of TVs inside or out on the patio. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road, and online at lazyoaflounge.com.
Whiz Cannabis Radio is brought to you by Herbal Aspect, Madison's #1 CBD brand. You can catch the show live on our social channels. Just search for Whiz Cannabis Radio. Herbal Aspect is a local Black-owned small business. For more information, go to herbalaspect.com.
Madison, you say what? Each weeknight from 5 to 6 and Saturdays noon to 2. Don't miss out on a single day of the Earl Ingram Show right here on Devil Radio 92.7 FM, 1580 AM.
Eric Holder, he's the former U.S. Attorney General and current chair of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee.
The notion that Scott Walker is saying that we are doing something to push partisan gerrymandering, that is the pot calling the kettle total black. I mean, that's absurd. He is one of the architects of among the most gerrymandered states in the union. All we're pushing for is a fair process come 2021.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. Taking on Ready Whitey Talk Radio on both sides of the dial from Cross Plains to Cottage Grove. Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looked so good.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Taking some phone calls before our next guest, Liz Hempowicz, Director of Public Policy at the Project of Government Oversight, joining us at the bottom of the hour. In the meantime, your calls at 844-967-2789.
But quickly, a factoid. Charmin bathroom tissue products were first manufactured in 1928 by the Hoburg Paper Company in Green Bay, Wisconsin. An employee described the design as charming, and the Charmin brand was born. From now on, it's not fancy Brian, it's charming Brian. Oh no, Scott Brian.
Yeah, it just disintegrates inside of you and stays.
Oh,
but you're a berry harvester, I see, so that's good for you. Congratulations.
It says it's ultra luxury and luxury hotel grades. Also for home, upscale hospitality.
Ooh.
And Class A office use. This is more of a Class B office, though, I'm afraid. 844-967-2789. Profane Ronnie, welcome.
Hey, Ronnie.
Hi, guys. Number one, I got to say, I'm totally a panda girl. We love panda. We get it at Woodman's in the big giant pack, and panda's totally where it's at. So, there.
They've got soft fur, I hear.
The panda. No, Ronnie, did you load up? Yeah, I mean, when the news of the virus came out, did you go and stock up, be prepared, or did you? What was your reaction?
We already had it because we don't like going to the store a lot. So we already had like a 12-pack of paper towels and a 6-pack of Kleenexes and a 36-pack of toilet paper. So we were good. So
did you go to Costco and buy it off the pallet?
Oh, Woodman's, she said, right? Woodman's?
Yeah. Woodman's, yeah.
All right, what else you got, Ronnie? What's your political thought for the day?
The political thought for today is that Mike Pence has probably just ruined the Packers' 4-0 season.
Oh, no!
No, because it's like, the Sports Illustrated when your team goes on the cover because, halfway through the season and you're undefeated, and then the next week he breaks his collarbone.
Right.
So it's thanks a lot, Mike Pence, for saying this in public, you doofus. I mean,
let's just call him an asswipe. Real quick, Ronnie, here's my thought. The fact that the Packer fans cannot go to the Packer games is devastating for the Fox Valley economy. And that, in no small part, is to be blamed on Trump and his coronavirus panel expert, Vice President Mike Pence. It's their fault you can't go to a Packer game, Wisconsin.
Yep. I agree. I concur.
That's not going to bode well at the ballot box. Crudy for president.
No. Thanks, Ronnie. Appreciate it.
If Kanye doesn't work out, then write me in. 844-967-2789. John from Hubertus. John, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, John.
I just wanted to tell you guys about the toilet paper hoarding. I'm not sure that actually happened, because when everything shut down, you weren't having people go to work or go to school, and therefore they weren't going to the bathroom there. So people were just planning ahead.
Changing their usage patterns from Class A office use to home use?
Well, that's where they're going to the bathroom now, instead of at work or school. So they had to have more toilet paper. I don't think it was a human oddity that they went out and bought a lot.
Well, John, I don't think it was the Republicans that were, hoarding all the toilet paper, because they've been wiping their you-know-whats with the Constitution for the last couple of years.
Nice. Thank you, John. I think there was some reaction to the announcement of a new virus. Certainly not everybody, but there were many news stories out there of people that were just loading their trucks up. Thank you. Let's keep going on the phones. Mark from the SAC, you are up. Welcome, Mark. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Mark.
Well, hey guys, is DeSantis from Florida going to announce his own death? I call it that as Corvid if he gets to Corvid and dies of it, because apparently they're cutting the numbers down in Florida. They don't report everything correctly down there.
Yeah.
For little Mr. Fitzgerald, I mean, there is a Wisconsin bird, or North American bird called the yellow-bellied sapsucker that might cover, Mr. Fitzgerald there.
Well, we'll start calling them the Fitzys from here on. It's easier to say than yellow-bellied sapsucker, although it's fitting in this case for Fitzy.
And could the Republicans be picking anything more gay of a tune than YMCA? That I'm
not sure to play in It's Rated Men. I don't know how they would. Not that there's anything wrong with that, Mark.
No, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it just strikes me as very odd that people that are so anti-gay pick all this stuff up and choose to be so love of manly men that they tend to be that.
No irony with it that Trump's dancing to Macho Man whatsoever. Thanks for the call, Mark. We got to get to the break. No irony, and same thing. Elton John, Tiny Dancer. How many times? How many have we gone to, Crudy, of these Trump events where they played the hell out of Tiny Dancer over and over and over again?
When did we tell him about Queen?
Don't say a word, man. Don't let them know.
Fat bottom girls make the rockin' world go round. I think I've told you this story, Dom. Very first album, final double album I ever owned. The Village People, of course. Took me back to my early Crudy discoing days last night at the Trump rally.
You were 8 or 9 years old. Yeah, good times. Life was simpler back then.
It was a gift. Who knew? Come back with us. We've got a fine guest. She is Liz Hempowicz. My bad. Liz Hempowicz. She is the Director of Public Policy Project on Government Oversight, POGO. And they're going to talk about the swampiness that the Trump administration's leaving behind. They didn't drain it. They added to it.
You'll develop toward.
That's amazing. How did you do that? Take your hand, you stick it in your ass like this. I don't want to create a panic.
From the Capitol in Madison, this is Wiz Politics Midday.
I'm Stephanie Hoff, your host, and this podcast is brought to you by Spectrum. Governor Tony Evers is required to submit his capacity limit order that limits businesses to 25% capacity as a rule. And this was decided by the Joint Committee on Review of Administrative Rules this week. Pat Bloody is on the line with me today for more. Pat, it looks like this now kicks off a process that lawmakers can use to suspend the governor's order.
That's right, Stephanie. And really what this is a different legislative tact to kind of shoot down one of Evers' administrative orders. Now, we talked yesterday on this podcast about how they were trying to challenge it through the courts. This instead is going to go through a committee. Now, this is important electorally because it doesn't bring this directly to a floor vote before the whole of the legislature. And now what we've been hearing from Capitol insiders here is that shooting down any orders on COVID from Evers is going to be a tough vote for some Republicans who are in tight contested races because Evers' response to COVID is actually polling very, very well. So by doing this, by putting it through a committee rather than the whole floor vote, it's really only a couple lawmakers that are in a tough spot here. And I think one thing that's really interesting to note when it comes to JCRER, Stephanie, is that Assembly Speaker Robin Vos earlier this year replaced Jim Ott, who is a Milwaukee suburbs Republican in a really tough re-election fight, with Romaine Quinn, who is a lawmaker from Barron who's actually retiring. So he doesn't have to face the voters here.
Thanks, Pat, for the overview, but let's get more into the specifics. What happened at the hearing?
Well, let's start with Democrats here, Stephanie. I would point to two really notable speeches that they gave. One was from Senator Chris Larson, who is of Milwaukee, and we're going to play a short clip for you as to what he had to say.
I think that given that we are in an emergency, and given this is an emergency order, and given that if this moves forward, we're going to be delaying further action in our state as we're going through an outbreak, it seems asinine to have an academic discussion in a ivory tower about whether an emergency rule is subject to the rulemaking oversight, or whether they have the authority to be able to make the rule as it exists.
On the other hand, you have Republicans saying this has not really anything to do with COVID-19.
Republicans argued this isn't at all about the pandemic. It's not about measures to fight the pandemic. Rather, it's about government overreach. Now, Senator Steve Noss, who is a Whitewater Republican, he's also the co-chair of this panel, certainly had some things to say on this topic. So we'll play a clip from him here.
The reason that the statute is there, 22726, is to give JCRAR, this committee, the power to address an agency going beyond the consent of the governed. And that's what is happening, and we can't just let that slide and ignore it. DHS does not want legislative input. They've made that very clear by not seeking our input. Well, now we are seeking from them an emergency rule so that we, the people, will know what they are doing and we can debate what they are doing.
Pat, looking ahead, is there anything that we need to look out for regarding this decision?
Well, Stephanie, I gave you that November 11th deadline, that's the 30-day clock that started on this.
Devil Radio, your fix for progressive talk from Middleton to Monona, always streaming at DARNWI.com.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again!
Exclamation point. Welcome back to the Devil's Advocate Radio Show. Dominic, we welcome a fine guest live via phone. She is Liz Hempowicz, Director of Public Policy Project of Government Oversight POGO. And Liz, I understand your outfit's got a brand new study, Corrupted, How Cronyism and Ineptitude Tainted Medical Supply Procurement. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show, Liz.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well,
Thank you for joining us.
More than welcome. We're talking about the procurement of PPE and essentials during this pandemic. My understanding, haven't really dug into your report yet,
but my understanding, much of the procurement process was led by Jared Kushner and a bunch of interns. Did I hear the reporting right?
Yeah, you sure did. I mean, the president's reliance on loyalists like his friends, major donors, family, interns, rather than experts, has had a huge impact on how the federal government has handled all the different aspects of the coronavirus pandemic.
And Liz, there was no centralized federal response that I understood. In a lot of cases, it was effectively pitting governors against each other and against the federal government and against the free markets, I guess. It seemed very chaotic, this response.
Yeah, I think that's one way to put it. I think, there's also this idea that this was on purpose, that at the beginning stages of this virus, that, the White House and particularly Jared Kushner viewed this as something that was really going to affect areas that are not mostly populated by the president's base. And so I think, there's some thinking that really did affect how they acted in the early stages. And I think that's really when it was so important for them to get it right. And it really seems like they've just fallen down on the job here at every stage.
Now, Liz, my understanding is people of color, African Americans, and Latinos have been disproportionately affected by this pandemic. Is there anything to indicate that this was by intent? Your thoughts?
I don't think there's anything to indicate that was intentional, but I think, there are places where the actions of the administration certainly made that worse. And I think one in particular is in the execution of the Paycheck Protection Program at the Small Business Administration. There was a provision included in the law that created that program, right? And the Paycheck Protection Program was meant to provide loans and that could eventually be transitioned into grants so that businesses would receive free money from the government to be able to pay their employees and keep them on the payroll. Now, there was a provision in the law that required the SBA to include guidance to these banks that were carrying out the program to prioritize businesses owned by women, minorities, by veterans, rural businesses, these traditionally underrepresented businesses. And the SBA just never issued that guidance. And what we saw was that, when that first tranche of money ran out, many businesses didn't realize that they could be reapplying for these loans. And really what the Paycheck Protection Program ended up benefiting was these well-connected, well-banked, well-lawyered businesses that were not the ones that were most financially hit by this crisis in the same way those traditionally underrepresented businesses were.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Liz Hempowicz, Director of Public Policy at the Project of Government Oversight, joining us on the phone. Liz, before we continue on the PPP, I just some questions about the reaction with President Trump and Jared Kushner and the interns. Was it your impression that there was any pause in the official administration reaction so they could look at something like this and determine if they could make any money on testing or, whatever circumstances, whatever business would be around a pandemic?
It's actually really difficult. It's difficult to answer that question. It's difficult to answer any questions about this shadow task force that Jared Kushner was operating. One of the reasons why, they went with interns and volunteers was so that they wouldn't be subject to those same transparency reporting requirements that other task forces like this are subject to. And then also that they're not subject to those same conflicts of interest requirements. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, it certainly makes it more likely that could be happening because we're going with this, this model where they aren't subject to those same rules that would prevent those kinds of things.
Liz, reading from the Pogo report, I'm going to quote briefly, if you'll indulge me. Team Kushner fielded protective equipment requests from a Fox News personality and was told to prioritize leads from VIPs, including Republican members of Congress and a former apprentice contestant. Is being on a reality TV show somehow allow you to jump to the front of the line, apparently under the Trump administration?
I haven't seen that written in any official policy or guidance or any of the laws that apply to these contracting rules, but it would certainly look like that, and I think this is not, it's in this procurement example, that's not the only place where we've seen these things, right? We saw that in the PPP. We've also seen it in what industries have benefited from these various parts of this response. So the fact that big oil and energy companies could benefit from some of the Federal Reserve's programs when they traditionally wouldn't have been able to is another good example, I think, of these industries that are close to the president, are, able to get his ear and able to affect policy in a way that kind of makes you scratch your head at some point.
Liz, I want to move on to the whistleblower protection, the whistleblower highlights that you have at pogo.org.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Rick Bright, and in a recent article, and I wanted to get your thought. When I think of whistleblowers and how they're treated, I think of the impeachment and Colonel Alexander Vindman and how he was treated. I just want to get your sense of how you see that we are reacting as a society, or at least under this administration, to whistleblowers in this administration.
Oh, this administration has made it very clear that they don't want to protect whistleblowers, that they want to go after anybody who would raise public or private concerns about anything that's going on in the administration. Rick Bright is a really good example because he was blowing the whistle on these bad contracting decisions being made behind the scenes based on the president's feelings and thoughts rather than science and what the data said and research said would be most helpful for the government to be investing in to combat the coronavirus. I think it's a fabulous example, and the fact that Rick Bright was pushed out of government by, this apparatus that would rather cater to the president's whims than get a public health crisis under control, I think says everything we need to know about the state of whistleblower protections in this country.
And Liz, my understanding, there was a Kennedy relation that apparently was on the Jared task force, and he also became a whistleblower. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, he blew the whistle on how just disorganized and ineffectual this task force was. And I think, one of the examples that comes to mind immediately is that they weren't even operating from government emails. And so when they're emailing these companies to try to, see if they could be sourcing PPE so that they could then spread it around the country, these companies weren't even answering because it probably looked like a phishing scheme to get an email from somebody's personal Gmail account saying they're representing the federal government and their response to the coronavirus. It's baffling. It's like, no wonder we don't have a handle on this because the government is not being run by professionals right now.
Now, my understanding, what's his name? Peter Navarro, the trade advisor for the Trump White House, he had a big part in negotiating for ventilators. And the Trump administration, Mike Pence, Donald Trump, they bragged a lot. No one's ever needed for a ventilator and not had a ventilator. Well, the federal government's been paying something of a premium. I don't like doing math on the radio, but if normal ventilator costs are something like $3,200 a unit, and the federal government agrees to pay $15,000, that's like a 500% markup.
It is, and it's even worse than just that. So it's not just that the ventilators go for much lower, it's also that the government had a contract for ventilators at that lower price, that Navarro came in and somehow managed to screw up so badly that we ended up recontracting with the same company we already had a contract for ventilators at that lower price, at that extreme markup. And he was able to do that because Navarro did so by excluding all the career professionals that understand government procurement and contracting. And so he was in there flying blind, basically. He's an economist, not somebody who has experience managing logistics like this or even contracting for the federal government. It's just completely baffling.
We've got Liz Hempowicz, a fine guest, director of public policy, project of government oversight, POGO, for a few more minutes. Liz, this leaves me very concerned when the president's out there bragging he's been cured from coronavirus, and there's hundreds of millions of apparently the cure doses being made by somebody, according to Trump. It makes me very nervous that the American people, A, are going to be undermined when there is a legitimate vaccine for this coronavirus, and B, that this has a lot of political timing overtures, very conspicuous. I want to get your opinion on the cure as Trump is promising.
So, what you're saying, that people would be skeptical of this process, that's exactly why all these laws exist around government ethics and government procurement, because there shouldn't even be a hint, a shadow of political corruption or cronyism in this process. And the fact that there is undermining public confidence in the government's response and in this vaccine that we will eventually need people to have confidence in. And the president goes out every day and undermines, public health, the messaging from doctors, the messaging from scientists, and goes out there and basically, conducts full-on commercials for big pharma to be pushing, these untested, unproven vaccines and treatments that he's able to benefit from, but many Americans are not able. Most Americans aren't able to benefit from, and it just raises all these questions. And that's exactly what we don't want happening during a time when unified government leadership is necessary to get the public through this crisis.
Liz, is it your impression that the federal government has stockpiled hydroxychloroquine or perhaps Clorox bleach?
I don't know. I think, I wouldn't recommend you asking Jared Kushner, because if you'll remember, he embarrassingly doesn't even know what the Strategic National Stockpile is for. He, I think during a press conference from the White House, said it was for us rather than for the states. I'm not sure who he meant by us.
Liz, do you anticipate we need a change in governance before we're going to have some sort of centralized and effective response to this pandemic, and make sure that these differing states, and we here in the state of Wisconsin, we've got a spiraling coronavirus pandemic going on. We've got field hospitals being opened this week because of the overflow in the hospitals. And I hear nothing from the federal government. I mean, hell, Trump's coming here on Saturday to hold a super spreader rally. What's your impression? How do we move beyond this pandemic, Liz?
Yeah, I can't even say we need a change in leadership, because that implies that there is some leadership right now. And it's just very clear. It's just very clear that there isn't. And I think, the American people certainly deserve better. And it's just, that's, I don't know, I got nothing else there. It's just such it's beyond baffling. I mean, it's sad. I'm speechless, and that's never happened.
Liz Hempowicz, Director of Public Policy at the Project of Government Oversight. Liz, the POGO's been around since, 1981, about 40 years. And my understanding, based on the history, is, the organization, found those really expensive hammers and coffee pots at the Pentagon and kind of went from there. Okay. And I know, obviously, in the current climate, we're talking about COVID, we're talking about the circumstances of this Republican administration, but certainly corruption and abuse of power, does not belong to only one party. What's your impression been with the current Republican administration versus the history? Is there any correlation to be made that this party does this or one party is worse than the other from your experience? We got about a minute left.
Yeah, I think wasteful spending, government wrongdoing, abuse of power, you're right. It has no one home in a political party. And I think, what I come back to is this is why it's so important that we have ethics laws on the books that govern everybody's activities all the way up to the president, that we have transparency and accountability standards, again, that apply across the board when we're talking about the federal government, because these problems are not going to go away. And what we need to be doing is figuring out how we mitigate them so that the American people can regain some of that trust in government that has been lost along the way when it sees that the federal government's response at a time of national crisis has fallen so short.
Liz Hempowicz, Director of Public Policy, Project of Government Oversight, thank you so much for joining the Devil's Advocates. And you got to agree with me on one point. The Republicans certainly have the monopoly on ineptitude. Thank you so much, Liz. Going to break, coming back, more Devil's Advocates.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you so much.
Look, I'm voting for Joe Biden for a really simple reason. He actually has a plan to stop all the pain and suffering. I'm just tired of seeing so many lives cut way too short. Worst of all, everyone knows it wouldn't be this bad if we only had a real leader in charge. I mean, seriously, ask yourself, where is Trump's plan? Where is his plan to save American lives? Where is his plan to get our economy back on track? After so many months of suffering, how does he still not have a plan? And it could take a generation for us to recover. Hundreds of thousands of jobs have been lost in Wisconsin alone. Thankfully, Joe's plan is based on science. It'll tackle the pandemic, get our economy started again, and help working families. We just can't wait 4 years for a president to take charge. We need to take action today. Go to iwillvote.com to register to vote and request an absentee ballot. Remember, iwillvote.com. That's all it takes to vote from home safely and securely. It's quick, it's easy. You can do it right now.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Businesses today thrive and survive with technology. At Five Nines, we provide businesses with the IT tools they need to stay relevant. We offer enterprise-level solutions at competitive prices. I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO of Five Nines. Let us manage your IT so you can focus on more important things, like running your business. Check us out at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Stream the Devils and Progressive News and Talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Whiz Cannabis Radio is brought to you by Herbal Aspect, Madison's #1 CBD brand. You can catch the show live on our social channels. Just search for Whiz Cannabis Radio. Herbal Aspect is a local, black-owned small business. For more information, go to herbalaspect.com.
Cut through the bullshit. Get the information the deep state doesn't want you to know. Only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Phone lines open for your take at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I want to thank our most recent guest, a pleasant one indeed. Her name, Liz Hempowicz, Director of Public Policy Project of Government Oversight. POGO, P-O-G-O.
Hell of a job keeping tabs on the corruption in government, and she likes the snark, so that's even better.
You know, funny is funny. I got a little headline along those lines. 3 more funny feelings about 2020. This one at Politico. Tim Alberta. Donald Trump has recovered from COVID-19 and emerged from quarantine telling Americans that he feels 20 years younger. Now, if only the president could put his poll numbers on steroids. I told you last Tuesday that while it's no time to be making predictions about the outcome of the November 3rd election, good reporters have seen enough at this point in the cycle to share their hunches and strongly held opinions. At the time, I shared 4 gut feelings I had about the race for president 4 weeks out from Election Day. Well, now it's 3 weeks out. And he writes, Tim Alberta writes, now with 3 weeks to go, here are 3 more things I'm thinking about the state of the campaign and what to expect in November. My prediction, pain. These yard signs are telling us something. 4 years ago, a debate raged within the political class over the significance of yard signs, specifically whether it mattered that Trump markings were ubiquitous outside of every big city and along every interstate, while Hillary Clinton symbols were nowhere to be found. Some experts insisted this disparity held little predictive value, that even as the metric of intensity did little to help illuminate potential voting behaviors, others argue that, in fact, the intensity or lack thereof was the entire point. The scale of yard signs offered a unique window into said voting behaviors, principally the attitudes towards both nominees from within their respective party bases. In that regards, the results we saw in 2016, overwhelming support for Trump among conservative Republicans, contrasted with diminished enthusiasm for Clinton among key Democratic constituencies, like mine, suggested that at least as one way into appraising base intensity, yard signs were a valuable measurement. At risk of fighting the last war, I paid an unhealthy level of attention to yard signs over the past year, and particularly since Joe Biden sealed the Democratic nomination this summer. Having logged many dozens of hours this summer and fall driving around the country, 2 things, count them, 1, 2, 2 things have stood out. First, the Trump MAGA signage has multiplied in mind-boggling ways. 4 years ago, it felt like the Republican nominee had reached a saturation point with his name dotting the landscape of American communities. Not even close. This is obviously ballparking, but whereas in 16, it seemed like we saw Trump logos on every 9th or 10th lawn, we're now seeing them on every 5th or 6th lawn in those same neighborhoods. It's a remarkable testament to the passion of the president's base. It also indicates that the shy Trump voter is a thing of the past. The people who flew his flag in 16 are still doing so. They're now joined by countless more MAGA devotees. Voters who might have once had reservations about Trump, or at least reservations about showing their support for him. But no, they're no longer holding back. Whether the president wins a second term or not, this display of fervency reinforces my belief that we have never seen a politician with such a cult following. We probably never will again. Dom, you want to take the second
I got
thing?
the second one here. Crudy, the second thing that's been striking is the Biden signage. Not the volume of it, but rather the location. There's no question Biden banners, and more recently Biden-Harris banners, are far outpacing the number of Clinton signs I saw 4 years ago. But that's really not saying much. No, what's been truly interesting is where the Biden posters are popping up. Just in the past few weeks, I've seen signs boosting the Democratic nominee and affiliated liberal causes in the blue-collar pockets of mid-Michigan and eastern Ohio, in the wealthy, well-educated, heavily Republican suburbs of Milwaukee and Cleveland, in the remote rural towns of central Pennsylvania, and along the dusty desert highways of northern Arizona. When I say I've seen signs in these places, I don't mean a couple small placards scattered here and there. I mean a conspicuous pattern of support spread across areas where you wouldn't expect to find it. And it hasn't been just pro-Biden material. It's been Black Lives Matter signs and LGBTQ rainbow flags and banners endorsing scientific expertise and women's rights. Does that mean Biden is going to ambush Trump in a bunch of red counties? No, but it does make me think that he'll close the margins in many of them. And more broadly, it does suggest that lots of Democratic voters who were too lazy or too indifferent towards Clinton to put their partisan loyalty on display 4 years ago are suddenly invested in ways they previously weren't. If that's the case in Trump-friendly areas, places where it can't be comfortable or even socially acceptable to air your rejection of the president, then it's probably all the truer in Democratic strongholds around the country. And yes, for the record, the pro-Biden signage in cities is far outpacing what was visible in 2016. Does this highly unscientific observation guarantee Biden will defeat Trump? Nope. But it confirms that voter intensity won't be a one-sided phenomenon on November 3rd.
Dominic, I have a Biden sign. A Clinton sign never touched my yard.
I also have a Biden sign, Michael. I have no signs have ever touched my yard.
And I've got a Pocan as well. You know, why not have Mark Pocan?
Well, yeah.
Number 2, Dom. Turnout is going to make historians do a double take. Now, this has been my opinion as well. I'm looking for a massive turnout. There was a time in this election cycle when, between a lack of enthusiasm for Biden's candidacy and a fear of leaving the House due to COVID-19, it seemed like voter participation might underwhelm this November. That time is gone. On the enthusiasm front, as I noted above, the anti-Trump intensity feels more than sufficient to compensate for Biden's vanilla campaign. That's the consensus among Republicans on the ground anyways. In Michigan, longtime GOP officials say they've never seen the left so engaged and organized, not even during Barack Obama's 2008 campaign. In Wisconsin, the Republican source I trust most to know what's happening on the ground insists the energy amongst Democrats actually surpasses where it was during the recall campaign against Scotty Wanker. Something nobody there thought was possible. As for the coronavirus, pretty much any voter worried about his or her health now has numerous options to cast a ballot from a distance. States have seen historic surges in absentee ballot requests, which, while raising concerns about the high number of technical disqualifications and long delays in counting come November, seem to foretell voting levels like we've never seen. The notion of COVID-19 depressing turnout is flipped upside down. The pandemic might very well be the catalyst for the biggest turnout, both in raw numbers and percentage of voting age population in American history. Oh, come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Your phone calls always welcome here. The Tuesday, 3 weeks to Election Day, the happy hour. It's starting right now.
Maybe we can go for a ride outside my window. The catch you, man.
Everybody watching can really be very proud of what's taking place.
I'm not going to join a cult.
You're going to be dead. So enjoy your life, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your life.
I'm Rocker, and this is my vodka, distilled right here in Madison, made from corn and gluten-free. Try Rocker Vodka at Sal's Dark Horse on Livingston or Sugar River Pizza in Verona. Find Rocker Vodka at Star Liquor, Woodman's, Willie Street Co-op, Vic Pierce, Steve's Liquor, Total Wine, Miller & Sons, and more at rockervodka.com.
Lando Commando at Knucklehead CBD and Vape, State Street's one-stop shop for all your CBD and vape needs. Check out the website, knuckleheadcbd.com, for an in-store menu and growing online catalog. Shop is open 10 a.m., 8 p.m. every day. New delivery options available. Knucklehead CBD and Vape, safest place in Madison, high above State Street.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus and W224EG 92.7 FM Madison. Always streaming at Talk 92.7 FM.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett faced questions from the Senate Judiciary Committee. Chair Lindsey Graham's reaction?
The judge has done a good job. So far, so good.
Barrett is repeatedly refusing to preview how she might rule on some key issues. The AP's Sagar Magani has the story.
Barrett says her job is to follow the law, and it's not the law of Amy, it's the law of the American people. How she feels about them doesn't matter.
I just don't have the power by fiat to impose my policy preferences or choose the result I prefer.
Declining to give her views on issues from gun rights to abortion to health care and the upcoming election. Barrett says she can't give an opinion on whether she'd recuse herself from any election dispute cases involving President Trump, who has said he wants 9 justices in place before any potential election decisions. Barrett also would not answer whether the president has the power to delay the general election, an idea he's floated. The Constitution gives Congress that power. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Today is the last day to vote in Virginia. An accidentally severed fiber optic cable shut down the state's online voter registration. Governor Ralph Northam may have to go to court to extend the deadline.
That deadline is set in our code, and it does not appear that I have the authority to change it.
An FBI agent testified today about a plot in June to kidnap Governor Northam. He links it to President Trump.
When language is used such as to liberate Virginia, people, they find meaning in those words, and thus these things happen.
The FBI agent testified in Michigan. 6 men there are accused of plotting to kidnap the Michigan governor. Independent monitors paused enrollment in a study testing the antiviral drug remdesivir, plus an experimental antibody therapy being developed by Eli Lilly that's similar to the treatment President Trump recently received. This is AP News.
T-Mobile for Business knows saving time and money is important for your business. That's why we're introducing Microsoft 365 on us, now included in our best business plans. With Office apps, Microsoft Teams, cloud storage, and more, Microsoft 365 on us gives you the tools you need to run your business. Stop by a T-Mobile store today. Qualifying plan required. Contactless to activate. 1 license per line, max 2 per account. Third-party terms apply. See T-Mobile.com for plan details.
When it comes to the radio, we all have our reason to fight over the dial.
Sports talk, entertainment news. Sports talk, entertainment news.
But with some things in life, we can all win. Like at TD Ameritrade, where we offer 2 different mobile apps. TD Ameritrade Mobile is great for the investor who wants a simple way to track the market, while Thinkorswim Mobile offers a more in-depth trading experience. Visit tdameritrade.com/apps to find the one that's right for you. TD Ameritrade, where smart investors get smarter. Member SIPC.
Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Do you know the Devil's Advocate started as a podcast, just two buddies talking into an iPad because we thought we had something to say. Do you have something to say? Let Devil Radio guide you. Launch your own broadcast quality podcast. Utilize our studios and staff, our hosting platform, and we will even promote your podcast on Devil Radio. Monthly packages start at just $295. Devil Radio's podcast platform to launch immediately after the election. Call today to learn more. 608-819-TALK.
This is Tony with Quality CBD. We are located on Willie Street across from the co-op. At Quality CBD, we are vertically integrated. From soil to oil and seed to sale, we grow, extract, manufacture, and distribute quality CBD oil. We also have contact-free delivery options at qualitycbd.org. Quality CBD. Legal, local, legit.
5 your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Santita Jackson of The Santita Jackson Show. Every Thursday morning at 7 o'clock, say hello, somebody, and join former Bernie Sanders co-chair, former state senator Nina Turner on The Santita Jackson Show on 92.7 FM.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, October 13th. Governor Evers calls on Republican leaders to meet with him to talk state response to COVID-19. Governor Tony Evers is calling on Republican leaders to sit down with him and talk about the state's response to the coronavirus. The governor shared a letter Thursday directed at Speaker Robin Vos and Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald, urging them to meet with him at the negotiating table. Researchers project COVID-19 case increase in nearly every Wisconsin county through October. Case numbers of COVID-19 are showing no signs of slowing down anywhere in the state, and in fact, some researchers have projected case increases in the coming weeks. Forecasts of overcast skies this morning, with clearing up throughout the afternoon for a sunny and breezy evening. High of 65 degrees, low of 41 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We are sliding into the 3 weeks from Election Day, Tuesday, 4 o'clock happy hour.
Yes.
And Dominic, I am happy to report the Democrats taking some opportunities in the Senate hearing on Amy Coney Barrett today. Today, unlike yesterday all about the speeches. Today, some questions being asked. But we start with a prominent Democrat who asked not a single question during his 30 minutes. Got an article here, Dom, I'd like to introduce for the record from The Independent. Senator reveals how Trump picked Amy Coney Barrett to dump Obamacare, gay rights, and abortion. The subheadline, when you find hypocrisy in the daylight, look for power in the shadows, Senator Whitehouse says of the conservative dark money groups. And we're going to play a long portion of this testimony because he didn't ask questions. These were all statements. But let me read briefly and then we'll get into the sound. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse used all 30 minutes of his time at the Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation hearing on Tuesday to reveal how Donald Trump and the Republican Party have harnessed $250 million in conservative dark money to appoint federal judges who will dismantle Obamacare, gay marriage, and abortion rights. Rifling through bullet point cardboard slides and an easel on his desk, the Rhode Island Democrat called out Republicans for refusing to hold hearings on Barack Obama's Supreme Court nominee in 2016, Merrick Garland, because it was an election year. And as Iowa GOP Senator Chuck Grassley said at the time, the American people shouldn't be denied a voice. Mr. Obama nominated Mr. Garland 7 months before the 2016 election. Donald Trump nominated Ms. Barrett, whom Republicans are determined to confirm this year, 7 weeks before the 2020 elections. When you find hypocrisy in the daylight, look for power in the shadows, Mr. Whitehouse said. On one of his slides, Mr. Whitehouse presented a direct quote from the Republican Party platform from 2016 and 20 that read, "A Republican president will appoint judges who will reverse the long line of activist decisions, including Roe, Obergefell, and the Obamacare cases." Roe v. Wade is the landmark Supreme Court decision from 1973 that enshrined abortion rights for American women. Obergefell versus Hodges is the court's 2015 decision that guaranteed same-sex couples the fundamental right to marry in all 50 states. And the Supreme Court has ruled on several cases with implications on key provisions from the 2010 healthcare law commonly known as Obamacare. Mr. Whitehouse and other Democratic senators pointed to several other comments by the president promising to appoint federal judges, including Supreme Court justices, who will roll back Obamacare policies. That is the president's statement. So when we react to that, don't act as if we're making this stuff up. This is what President Trump said. This is what your party platform says. Reverse the Obamacare cases, Mr. Whitehouse said. Now, more important, and there's more to this article at The Independent. I'll put it up at the Devil's Advocates Radio Facebook page, but we're going to play about 6 or 8 minutes. And Fancy Brian did the hard work. He listened to all of this testimony, and he's going to hone it in on Whitehouse describing the Bradley Foundation, Wisconsin's own contribution to the dark money support of these judicial appointments. Fancy Brian, when you're ready, let's play Delaware Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and his testimony, no questions required.
Yeah, just so you know, exactly where you left off is pretty much where he takes up. He had just explained why they're doing it and now he's going to explain how they're doing it.
Play it for the people.
When we say the stakes are high on this, it's because you've said the stakes are high on this. You have said that's what you want to do. So how are people going about doing it? What is the scheme here? Let me start with this one. In all cases, there's big anonymous money behind various lanes of activity. One lane of activity is through the conduit of the Federalist Society. It's managed by was managed by a guy named Leonard Leo, and it's taken over the selection of judicial nominees. How do we know that to be the case? Because Trump has said so over and over again. His White House counsel said so. So we have an anonymously funded group controlling judicial selection run by this guy, Leonard Leo. Then in another lane, we have, again, anonymous funders running through something called the Judicial Crisis Network, which is run by Carrie Severino, and it's doing PR and campaign ads for Republican judicial nominees. It got single $17 million donation in the Garland-Gorsuch contest. It got another single $17 million donation to support Kavanaugh. Somebody, perhaps the same person, spent $35 million to influence the makeup of the United States Supreme Court. Tell me that's good. And then over here, you have a whole array of legal groups, also funded by dark money, which have a different role. They bring cases to the court. They don't wind their way to the court, Your Honor. They get shoved to the court by these legal groups, many of which ask to lose below so they can get quickly to the court to get their business done there. And then they turn up in a chorus, an orchestrated chorus of amici. Now, I've had a chance to have a look at this. And I was in a case, actually, as an amicus myself, the Consumer Financial Protection Board case. And in that case, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 amicus briefs filed. And every single one of them was a group funded by something called Donors Trust. Donors Trust is a gigantic identity scrubbing device for the right wing so that it says Donors Trust is the donor without whoever the real donor is. It doesn't have a business. It doesn't have a business plan. It doesn't do anything. It's just an identity scrubber. And this group here, the Bradley Foundation, funded 8 out of the 11 briefs. That seems weird to me when you have amicus briefs coming in little flotillas that are funded by the same groups but nominally separate in the court. So I actually attached this to my brief as an appendix. Center for Media and Democracy saw it, and they did better work. They went on to say which foundations funded the brief writers in that CFPB case. Here's the Bradley Foundation for $5.6 million to those groups. Here's Donors Trust, $23 million to those brief writing groups. The grand total across all the donor groups was $68 million to the groups that were filing amicus briefs, pretending that they were different groups. And it's not just in the Consumer Financial Protection Board case. You might say, well, that was just a one-off. Here's Janus, the anti-labor case that had a long trail through the court, through Friedrichs and through Knox and through other decisions. And SourceWatch and ProPublica did some work about this. Here's Donors Trust and Donors Capital Fund, and here's the Bradley Foundation, and they totaled giving $45 million to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 groups that filed amicus briefs pretending to be different groups, and both of the lawyer groups in the case. Funded by Donors Trust, funded by Bradley Foundation in Janus. This is happening over and over and over again, and it goes beyond just the briefs. It goes beyond just the amicus presentations. The Federalist Society, remember this group that is acting as the conduit and that Donald Trump has said is doing his judicial selection? They're getting money from the same foundations. From Donors Trust, $16.7 million. From the Bradley Foundation, $1.37 million. From the same group of foundations total, $33 million. So you can start to look at these and you can start to tie them together. The legal groups, all the same funders over and over again, bringing the cases and providing this orchestrated chorus of amici. Then the same group also funds the Federalist Society over here. The Washington Post wrote a big expose about this, and that made Leonard Leo a little hot, a little bit like a burned agent. So he had to jump out, and he went off to go and do anonymously funded voter suppression work. Guess who jumped in to take over the selection process in this case for Judge Barrett? Carrie Severino made the hop. So once again, ties right in together. So Center for Media and Democracy has done a little bit more research. Here's a Bradley Foundation memo that they've published. The Bradley Foundation is reviewing a grant application asking for money for this orchestrated amicus process. And what do they say in the staff recommendation? It is important to orchestrate, their word, not mine, important to orchestrate high caliber amicus efforts before the court. They also note that Bradley has done previous philanthropic investments in the actual underlying legal actions. So Bradley is funding, what do they call, philanthropically investing in the underlying legal action and then giving money to groups to show up in the orchestrated chorus of amici.
Now that is Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. And it might be a little dry on the radio, but I got to tell you, in totality, it is damning of the funding mechanisms of the right. And they're well entrenched and they're nearly totally anonymous. And they're writing tons of amicus briefs. Some seem like they're coming from the left pocket, some come out of the right pocket, but they're all coming from the same funding sources with the same intent, which is to pack the federal judiciary and, of course, to put Trump's third pick on the Supreme Court. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, the Tuesday, 3 weeks to an election day happy hour. It continues. Your phone call is always welcome. 844-967-2789.
The courts agree with us, too. What's going on in this country?
I'm Rocker, and this is my vodka, distilled right here in Madison, made from corn and gluten-free. Try Rocker Vodka at Sal's Dark Horse on Livingston or Sugar River Pizza in Verona. Find Rocker Vodka at Star Liquor, Woodman's, Willie Street Co-op, Vic Pierce, Steve's Liquor, Total Wine, Miller & Sons, and more at rockervodka.com. Stream the Devils and Progressive News and Talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Free and equal education is and has always been a cornerstone to this nation. Yet our public school systems, once the envy of the world, has never faced more scrutiny than right now. Caught between political bickering and big business cash grabs, our schools are under attack, and the people that stand to lose the most are our children. Join Dr. Tim Slecker and Dr. Johnny Lupinacci for Busted Pencils, Tuesday nights at 6. Each week they take on the challenges facing our schools, teachers, and communities on Devil Radio 92.7.
Madison, you say what? Each weeknight from 5 to 6 and Saturdays noon to 2. Don't miss out on a single day of the Earl Ingram Show right here on Devil Radio 92.7 FM, 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates. They refuse to do math on the radio.
Dr. Michael Hicks, professor of economics, director of the Center for Business and Economic Research at Ball State University. This is troubling math all the way around. According to your mathematics, Michael, when do you think the great state of Wisconsin will get paid back on its investment?
Right. I mean, the answer is the answer is never.
Devil Radio, your fix for progressive talk radio from Fitchburg to DeForest, always streaming at DARNWI.com.
420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Phone lines are open. You can join us at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, the Republicans are so kicking our ass in this regard. They play the long game. And the Bradley Foundation, I mean, $500 million or more in their endowment. They can give a lot of $5.6 million.
Yeah, like $900 million in their endowment.
Think tank grants so people can write amicus briefs supporting the Federalist selected Supreme Court nominees of the Trump administration. And I tell you what, these conservatives, air quotes, they care a hell of a lot more about putting another justice on the court than they care about the American people, certainly, or they'd be voting some sort of coronavirus stimulus bill into law, and even more than they care about Donald Trump. He is just the devil.
The vessel,
but the devilish vessel that they had to make a deal with, a Faustian deal. They will more likely to throw Trump overboard than these Republicans will to give up the opportunity to slam a few more judges on the court. And ultimately, Don, between the right-wing media machine, and that's always going to be there. And I mean, I'm feeling great about the fact that Joe Biden is so well-resourced. He's swimming with money. And the Democrats, I strongly suspect, will have a blue wave election. But my fear is ultimately the Republicans are quietly working behind the scenes in an anonymous fashion to change the makeup of the courts, because you can't do anything if the courts can just overturn it. Think Feingold McCain, right? McCain Feingold. Campaign finance laws, they took it down brick by brick. And now we got what? Citizens United? And that opened the floodgates, contrary to Alito's no. Yes. It opened the floodgates. It made America worse. And of course, they got the right-wing talk radio machinery to prop up these sort of thoughts, and they got Fox News to prop up these thoughts. And the Democrats were going to win this elective cycle, or at least I suspect we will, because we're hugely resourced. And then we're going to leave the field of battle. And the Republicans, they're still out there doing the same work. And they're still out there doing the same messaging. And when it comes midterm time, and Joe Biden's not there with $1 billion to backstop the Democratic Party, then what happens? Then we get our asses handed to us once again. Republicans, they don't quit on election day. They're just getting started.
Well, and it's not just about the elections or the executive branch and the Congress. I mean, they are in and they are making huge investments, as we've just heard, into the judicial branch. And I'm not clear that, whatever dark money, quote unquote, whatever money that the left or the Dems or the progressives have can match what the Republicans and the conservatives have been doing for years and will continue to do with great amount of money and great amount of efficiency and a head start.
Well, I think the Democrats have demonstrated in this elective cycle. We've got the money. It's a question of what we invest that money in. And Donald Trump has picked about 25% of the entire federal judiciary in a little over 3.5 years. That will change the courts for a lifetime. The rest of my life, there will be Trump nominees on the courts forever, at least forever as far as I'm concerned. 844.
No, Mitch McConnell was holding all. I mean, how much did Mitch McConnell do during the Obama administration? I mean, this has been, as you mentioned,
held 128 seats vacant.
Game. Yeah.
Well, and they're playing. I mean, look at here in the state of Wisconsin. We'll get to the callers in just a moment. But why attack Tony Evers in the midst of a pandemic? It's not about the pandemic. It's about laying the political groundwork for 2 years from now so they can beat Tony and they can try to control the levers of power here in the state of Wisconsin for another decade. They're playing that game now. The Democrats, we're just hoping Joe Biden can beat back Trump. 844-967-2789. Let's get to the phones. Jeannie from Eau Claire. Welcome back, Jean. What do you got for us?
Hey, Jeannie.
Not catching that. And I think every single person should look that up and watch, because he has diagrams and the whole story. I was so impressed. My mother, she's 86, and I've been trying to explain to her what's happened in our state with the Koch brothers, Bradley Foundation, Americans for Prosperity, that group, and she totally didn't quite get it, didn't understand, and she watched him today, and she was calling me up and said, oh, man, he did a great job. Every single person in this state should see this, because we can identify with what happened in our state with the old Koch brother group and Bradley Foundation and what they did in our state. So I think that the Democrats as a whole have woken up, and they know now they need to fight for our country and our democracy, because we felt it in Wisconsin. We witnessed it in our state, and now they're trying to take over the entire country, which is really, really sick. So thank you for playing it, and please tell people to check that one out. You know, you can Google it, and you can see his whole speech. Senator Whitehouse, fantastic, done today. See, he takes you down the whole path of where this money is coming from, how many briefs, and we've seen it in our own state with Will. So, folks, wake up, good education for you to understand why you need to vote Democrat for sure, and get these people out of office, because they're very dangerous. Thanks, guys, and have a good day.
Thank you, Jeannie. You too.
Let's take one more quick here, this segment while there's time. Wisco Paul, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Devils. Very quickly, Grothmann would get beat in the 6th Congressional District by Jessica King because she's an awesome candidate, but it's so gerrymandered, it's hard to tell. And as far as the Supreme Court and Barrett go, they want 3 things: labor laws, the climate or environment or whatever you want to call it, and the Affordable Care Act. I don't think they care about gay rights and abortion. They want where the money is. Those three things.
Yeah, Paul, but the other things are social issue, wedge issues,
motivational issues
that turn out their evangelical base. Come back with us. Many more of your phone calls, 844-967-2789.
Nanny Maple number 9. Mary had a little laugh.
No, we're not backing down.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Supplying your political fix in the back roads, WTTN 1580 AM and Wisconsin's home for Devil Radio.
Are you a small business owner or professional that would like to be featured in your own weekly Ask the Expert radio segment or show on Devil Radio? Let us help you in your business team with our broadcast professionals to create the right show or segment, setting you apart as the go-to professional and as an expert in your field. All shows and sponsored segments are podcasted. It will be professional broadcast quality. Packages from $395. Call Devil Radio today at 608-819-TALK. Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're forgetting one really important one.
Zero res.
Not only is it the coolest palindrome ever, it's also our favorite.
Right, I remember. Why is that again?
They advertise with us.
Zero res, my favorite palindrome.
And carpet cleaner. Get the best carpet cleaning ever. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmedicine.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate.
Supreme Court nominee. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. Judge Amy Coney Barrett tells the Senate committee she has no agenda for or against any laws, including the Affordable Care Act.
To approach the ACA and every other statute without bias, and I have not made any commitments or deals or anything like that. I'm not here on a mission to destroy the Affordable Care Act.
Barrett was nominated by President Trump to replace the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the Supreme Court. Skeptical Democrats on the Judiciary Committee have questioned her about abortion, gun rights, and election disputes. Barrett adds, it's not the law of Amy, it's the law of the American people. An FBI agent, in testimony during an evidence hearing in a federal court in Michigan, says members of paramilitary groups during a meeting in June discussed kidnapping not only Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, but also Virginia Governor Ralph Northam. It's not immediately clear whether the talk of targeting Northam went beyond the June meeting. I'm Tim McGuire.
T-Mobile for Business knows saving time and money is important for your business. That's why we're introducing Microsoft 365 on us, now included in our best business plans. With Office apps, Microsoft Teams, cloud storage, and more, Microsoft 365 on us gives you the tools you need to run your business. Stop by a T-Mobile store today. Qualifying plan required. Contactless activate. 1 license per line, max 2 per account. Third-party terms apply. See T-Mobile.com for plan details.
When it comes to the radio, we all have our reason to fight over the dial.
Sports talk, entertainment news. Sports talk, entertainment news.
But with some things in life, we can all win. Like at TD Ameritrade, where we offer 2 different mobile apps. TD Ameritrade Mobile is great for the investor who wants a simple way to track the market, while Thinkorswim Mobile offers a more in-depth trading experience. Visit tdameritrade.com/apps to find the one that's right for you. TD Ameritrade, where smart investors get smarter. Member SIPC.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, October 13th. Wisconsin denies tax credit to Foxconn for 2019 work. Says company did not create enough jobs to fulfill agreement. 3 years after legislation was passed promising Foxconn Technology Group billions in tax credits, and President Donald Trump presided over a groundbreaking ceremony in Mount Pleasant, the company will not be receiving any state tax credits for the work done in 2019. According to the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, Foxconn has hired only 281 people eligible for tax credits and has made only $300 million in capital expenditures, not fulfilling the goals set out in the contract signed by Foxconn and the state. The original plan was to create a Generation 10.5 LCD advanced manufacturing facility with the promise of creating 13,000 jobs. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The
Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dominic, we've got some breaking news helping to make our point. Supreme Court says Trump administration can shut down census count now, despite fears of an undercount. This one, I've got the Washington Post version. Robert Barnes, the fine journalist, the Trump administration may shut down the census count now, after the Supreme Court on Tuesday put a hold on a judicial order keeping the count going through the end of the month. The court, as is common in emergency applications, did not provide a reason. Justice Sonia Sotomayor was the only justice to record her dissent. Here's her dissent. The harms caused by rushing this year's census count are irreparable. The respondents will suffer the lasting impact for at least the next 10 years. A panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit ruled that the Commerce Department could not end the count in early October as it had planned and should continue until Halloween. But it also said the department could still try to meet a December 31st deadline for delivering the count to the White House, and it did not have to wait till April 30th to deliver it, as the district court said. The timing is important. The White House wants to send the population totals to Congress in January, and President Trump has said he wants to remove unauthorized immigrants from the state counts. Census data is used to determine a decade's worth of federal funding, apportionment of House seats, and state redistricting. If Trump is not reelected, a delay much beyond December 31st would mean that his opponent, Democrat Joe Biden, would make decisions about the count. So Trump, even if he loses, wants to control the census count and the apportionment of congressional districts for a decade. Plaintiffs, including the National Urban League, several jurisdictions, and other groups, contend that a shortened timeline would result in an undercount of harder-to-count populations, including immigrants, minorities, and lower-income groups, depriving them of funding and representation. Well, that's exactly why they're doing it, Dom. After the Ninth Circuit affirmation of part of the U.S. District Judge Lucy Coe's ruling that the count should continue, the Trump administration went to the Supreme Court. Acting Solicitor General Jeffrey Wall said Coe's ruling exacerbates the serious risk that the Census Bureau will not be able to deliver the data by the December 31st statutory deadline. Wall said the court should not worry about the count if the count is incomplete. Wall said the court should not worry that the count is incomplete, saying the district court disregarded the Bureau's successful efforts to ensure that the 2020 census will reach levels of accuracy and completeness comparable to other recent censuses while still being the deadline. Accuracy be damned, little buddy.
Crudy, census experts and plaintiffs have said they are concerned that some households were counted inaccurately to reach the completion rate goals, citing enumerators and supervisors across the country who said they were told to cut corners and skip steps in the rush to bring all the states to a 99% completion rate. As defendants' own data shows, millions of Americans have now been counted only because of the district's court injunction, said the Urban League response to the government suit filed by lawyer Melissa Arbus-Sherry. And critical field work is ongoing, especially for those in hard-to-count populations. Any stay would allow defendants to stop the 2020 census count, shut down field operations, fire hundreds of thousands of employees, and start processing data the very next day. There is no going back from that. Congress could still approve a change to the statutory deadline. A House coronavirus relief bill approved the change, and a bipartisan group of senators has come out in support of it.
844-967-2789. Going back to the phones, these things, these political issues we discuss, they matter quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Sheila from Oregon, welcome to the show.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi. Oh, this news on the census is very disheartening. Yeah. But Mr. Our White House is absolutely stellar at laying out cases. But I think Coney Island Amy, she's a foregone conclusion. She's going on, and the the legacy that Trump's going to leave on the Supreme Court is just incredible.
Sheila?
I'm always going to, this is how I'm going to remember it. I'm going to call it the KGB justices, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Barrett.
I like that, Sheila.
Sheila, do you believe that Joe Biden, if successful at winning the presidency, should quote unquote pack the courts? Should he expand the court, the federal Supreme Court?
I'm
the forced government birthing policies of the conservatives. I think that would certainly bode against the Republicans, politically speaking, but I have no doubt that many of these people would martyr themselves politically in order to get that across.
Well, let's talk about the martyr that is Lindsey Graham, the Judiciary Chairman. Washington Post reporting, Senate Judiciary Committee Chair Lindsey Graham showed some candor for once. Instead of denying that he wanted to use the Supreme Court to achieve what President Trump and Republicans could not, repealing the Affordable Care Act, he started out Tuesday's hearing on Judge Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation with a confession of sorts. I'll read it to you, Dom. All of my colleagues on the other side had emotional pleas about Obamacare. Obamacare has been a disaster for the state of South Carolina. All of you over there want to impose Obamacare on South Carolina. We don't want it. We want something better. The American people, according to Jennifer Rubin at the Post, have plainly said otherwise, having flipped the House in 18-2 Democratic control, largely on the issue of health care. We are also in the middle of an election during which voters can once again make their voices heard. But Graham and his colleagues, surely sensing a massive defeat ahead, figure Barrett will be the ticket to dismantling the popular healthcare statute. Clarity is refreshing. The confessions of Lindsey Graham. What they really want to do, they want to take away your health care. And they didn't have the courage to do it in the Senate. John McCain, thumbs down. So they're going to do it through the activist courts. One last segment of the Devil's Advocate. Your calls welcome, 844-967-2789. We're an American show.
Have to beat that off. They got New York all over.
Just aim high.
Hey, Wisconsin.
We're Wisconsin.
I'm a dairy farmer.
I'm a bartender.
Yo me escuela de enfermería.
There's no doubt no one's ever experienced anything like COVID-19.
Ever. But there's also no doubt we'll get through it together.
So I'll sanitize surfaces.
I won't touch my face.
And I'll stand 6 feet apart.
Look, these are little things.
But they mean everything.
Let's all have each other's backs.
So we can all keep moving forward.
And let's all be in for each other.
Learn more at weareallinwi.com.
Our depth of experience means that a lot of your legal questions can be answered in one representation because we have the people and the institutional knowledge to deal with any number of situations.
The attorneys at Lawton & Cates. It's who you turn to for legal advice. 282-6200 or lawtoncates.com.
When you need an attorney, trust the voice of experience. The only choice, Lawton & Cates.
Celebrating 60 years.
Stream the Devils and Progressive News and Talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
The Lazy Wolf Lounge is Madison's East Side place for friends and family. Whether it's for lunch or dinner, you know you're in for a tasty treat. Awesome apps, burgers, pizza, and the best fish fry in Madison. And join us to cheer on the green and gold with 50-cent wings, beer bucket specials, and free Jell-O shots with every Green Bay touchdown. Plenty of TVs inside or out on the patio. The Lazy Wolf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road, and online at lazyolflounge.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Santita Jackson of The Santita Jackson Show. Every Friday morning at 7 o'clock, let's fix our society by fixing ourselves with the Love Doc, Dr. Brenda Wade on The Santita Jackson Show on 92.7 FM.
From Bernie to Biden to even Trump supporters, Devil Radio is the political fix for every Wisconsinite. Always streaming at DARNWI.com.
All veils and misty, streets are blue.
The Devil's Advocates. Political commentary from the back of the class.
That chill divine.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, pick up the phone and holler us up at 844-967-2789 to be like our pal Pizza Box. Mike, you are next. Happy days, Pizza Box. How you doing, man?
I can't believe these drama queen Republicans every time they do something. But, Lindsey Graham, watching him first of all, he's like, doing a campaign thing for himself. He wasn't doing anything with the Supreme Court, asking any questions, anything like that. He was just whining about how horrible it is to live in one of those S-hole states called Republican red states, and he's blaming it on Democrats. Who's in charge in that state? I mean, the state assembly and everything, everything's red there, right? And you're going to blame that on Democrats. And when you know that for every dollar or whatever that we put in, we get like 60 cents back, and we got to cover their sorry asses all the time. He should just pound sand.
Well, it's not a hearing. It's a show, Mike. You know this is going to happen. The writing is on the wall. She's going to get the votes. As Graham said in the beginning of this entire fiasco, all the Republicans are going to go vote for, and all the Dems are going to vote against, and they got the numbers. Why even bother?
Yeah,
right?
And well, another one, is Romney. Talking about how uncivil it is. What is it that his granddaughter, his niece, that's like the RNC chair? Really? Why doesn't he take care of the problems he's got in his family? And don't everybody let him off the hook. Remember what he did for a living. He and his associates would go in and take over these
vulture
companies
capitalist,
and run them into the ground.
Creative destruction,
capitalist,
wind down specialties.
It's not going to end, and it's just going to get worse. And I know it's getting worse every day. It just makes me sick.
Well, why do you think that, Mike? I mean, I'm feeling like, people are kind of, becoming aware. People are getting sick of it. People are seeing through it. More and more people are coming to the conclusion that, one party is certainly taking advantage of the connections and the anonymous money as defined in the hearing today. I think people are getting more educated to the facts. Mike, why are you so down on it?
Well, because of the control by just a few people, that we don't even know if this election is going to really get counted, man. I got a bad feeling on it. I mean, I know that right now Trump is toast, in a fair election. But they've done everything. I mean, from the post office to, just setting this up for fall, putting on a Supreme Court judge. Man, she doesn't even sound mature enough to be on any bench, man.
But doesn't it also show, but Mike, doesn't it show the desperation of this party, of this administration, because they know what is coming. They know it. That's why they're doing it. Hell, they've known it for a while. That's why Trump's been laying the groundwork for months and months and months. I mean, how long ago was he talking about, mail-in ballots? I mean, 6-8 months ago, they knew what was coming. And this is, before COVID and before Trump himself and half of his administration got the COVID, Mike. I mean, does it give you any sense of relief knowing that they're doing this because they know they're fighting an uphill battle?
No, I don't, because I think the damage is done, and it's basically irreversible at this point unless we get him out. And they're just setting it up. They got it set up in the courts. They stopped appointments by Obama on purpose, and then just jammed them, man. That's he's left all these cabinet posts open, but he brags about how many judges he's put in. That's real bad for all of us. It really is. And sure, once in a while, there's going to be a judge that's going to say, I'm just not willing to go down this road with Trump, but it's not going to be enough. I mean, we're going to have to do some. I really do feel like we're going to have to, I don't know, man. I hate to think what will happen if Trump doesn't get taken down, and I just don't feel good about it.
Michael, it'll be pitchforks and torches time in America. Pizza Box, appreciate you listening. Want to get one last story out. Our friend Bruce Murphy, Urban Milwaukee Online Daily. Did David Clark inspire the Michigan militia?
Yes.
Question mark?
Yes.
Let me read. After the bizarre plot by alleged terrorists to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer was exposed, she blamed President Donald Trump for encouraging white nationalist groups and urging protesters to liberate Michigan. She did not note the role of former Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark, who gave speeches in Michigan to urge right-wing Whitmer haters to resist the governor. Milwaukee cowboy-hatted rabble-rouser has been a frequent presence in Michigan, giving a speech in Detroit last March to promote the Build the Wall campaign. Steve Bannon group, Dom?
Charged with fraud.
Whose leaders have since been charged with fraud. 2 months before that, Clark appeared at a fundraiser for conservative Thomas Swafford for Kalamazoo Sheriff, and a speaker at another event, the 2020 Michigan Conservative Minority Summit in Portage, Michigan, as Michigan Live reported. in mid-April when protesters gathered in Lansing to urge resistance to pandemic restrictions put in place by Whitmer. Clark was a featured speaker. Hundreds of I'm not doing the Clark voice. Hundreds of protesters, some of them armed with assault rifles, gathered at Michigan State Capitol, demanding entry into the state Senate floor to confront lawmakers set to debate an extension of the stay-at-home order in place to curtail the spread of the novel coronavirus. The Daily Beast reported the American Patriot rally was aimed at Whitmer, the story noted. Legislators were so frightened, some were wearing bulletproof vests, as Senator Dana Polhonky tweeted during the speech to the crowd. Clark, an outspoken Trump supporter, urged the crowd to become defiant in the face of Whitmer's social distancing order and questioned CDC guidance that people stay 6 feet apart. How did they come up with the number of 6 feet, Clark said. I think they just pulled it out of their rear ends.
No, I mean, you can find the science on that. You probably Google it, Clark. Curdy, I'll jump in here. On April 30, Trump was back in Michigan, to the Michigan Capitol, to rally protesters against Whitmer again. In a speech documented on YouTube, Clark declared, "You have been lied to. You have been bamboozled into giving up your God-given rights. My fellow Americans from the great state of Michigan," Clark was quoted by Media Right News, "My message is real clear to Governor Whitmer. Open Michigan now. Governor Whitmer, hear this. If these demands continue to fall on deaf ears, and if you continue to ignore the will of the people, they, like the founding fathers, will be left with no other recourse than to ignore your pretend legislation. Michiganders are being polite for now, but not much longer. My advice to the people of Michigan is to become defiant."
Pitchforks and torches time in Michigan. I mean, that's crazy. Clark, he's been on this show.
Yeah, he's crazy.
I want to thank our fine guests today. They included Tom Palzewicz, candidate for the 5th Congressional District, his opponent, Scotty Fitzgerald, yellow-bellied, and Liz Hempowicz. She is the Director of Public Policy Project of Government Oversight, POGO. Thank you both. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Fancy Brian. Thank you, Dominic. Stick around. Earl Ingram, the Earl Ingram Show, is next.
You see the size of that chicken?
No, I don't see it. I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Hey, Ma! Can we get some meatloaf?
No, I'm not going to join a cult.
When Trump gets to the guillotine, you're going to be the first one to go.
It is what it is.
Look, I'm voting for Joe Biden for a really simple reason. He actually has